we feeling?
Yeah, no, I think, same sentiment as Bobby. Overall, I think we're just going to have an incredibly exciting season. There's so much to look forward to, and a lot of announcements that have been made about the changes that are going to happen in COD Mobile as a whole. So super excited to talk about all of this.
Tech, the one pro player here on the board. Bobby didn't qualify, so it's just you?
I mean, I didn't qualify either if we're talking about that, man.
Is that true?
Bobby made it further than me, bro.
I tried to get Tech. I actually talked to Tech when we were streaming together, and I said, if we make it to the next stage of the competition, like, how much do I have to pay you for you to join Bobby Bucket's Dino Nuggets? But unfortunately, we never reached that point.
It's a legendary team name, by the way. It's a legendary team name. Let's just kind of kick the conversation off because Season 6 obviously is all right in the forefront of our minds. We've got global action starting up. And with that, every year we always look at a brand new map pool. And I kind of want to start with that. Maps that are out, new maps that are in. Hippo, I kind of want to go to you first on this one. How do we feel about, let's just start with the Hardpoint map pool. How do we feel about Summit, Hacienda, Apocalypse, Arsenal, Slums?
Oh my, I think that there's a lot of, kind of old memories flooding back in. There's a lot of nostalgia in some of the previous seasons, such as, Slums coming back in. But we also see some mainstays that are, still sticking around, such as Summit and also Apocalypse from last season. So I think it's an incredibly interesting map pool, especially now that we have some iconic maps that are back in, while also having some maps that, have been notoriously known to be both strengths for certain Eastern teams and then strengths for Western teams in terms of performances across the board at major international events such as Masters and in the World Championship last year. So overall, I think it's a super exciting map pool. It seems to be very, very balanced in terms of just the size of the map pool as a whole. Pretty relatively stable across the board with a couple exceptions just here and there. So I think but I think there are the nuances of the map that every team is going to want to explore to see, what is going to be their strengths and weaknesses across the board. So it'll be super fun to see how the hardpoints pan out.
How about you guys? Bobby, Tech, Hardpoint map pool, what are we feeling?
You go ahead, Tech.
I hate Summit, man. I will die on this hill, bro. I'm an AR playing Summit. Why? Why is this in the map pool? Look, Summit has some of the worst spawns, in my opinion, until they came out with this new map pool. Because the Arsenal spawns and the Slum spawns, they have no consistency whatsoever. So I enjoy the maps, but I'm looking forward to the spawns points kind of getting reworked. But yeah, I removed Summit.
I know from what I've heard, obviously I play the game, but Arsenal Hardpoint is not in ranked, and we never really scrimmed it whenever we were getting ready for SPS. So Arsenal, it was just like a permaban for us because from what we had heard, the spawns were definitely still an issue there. So hopefully we do get a little bit of a rework before the main portion of the season comes up. But I enjoyed the rest of them. I wish we would have gotten to play Slums more because I feel like that's a really underrated hardpoint map. I know the spawns can get wonky at some points, but for the most part, that's one that I really enjoy the flow of. So overall, I like it. I'm glad that they added Hacienda back in as well. That's one that I think was definitely missing for last season, and is just such a good. Actually, was Hacienda in the last season?
It was.
It was? Okay. Maybe we just didn't get to see it quite as much, but Hacienda is definitely one that I guess maybe because I don't ever play it in rank, going back to that was definitely a lot of fun to play.
Fair. Search and Destroy is the interesting one, I think, this year for the map pool because Tunisia, staple. Firing range, staple. Standoff, staple. Kurohana returns. Coastal gets added, and I know that Coastal has been a staple of the Eastern Hemisphere in a lot of their events, but now we're going to see it globally. Any thoughts about Coastal being added into the map pool for the first time in the Western space?
You can wallbang.
I think Coastal's really good. Oh, go ahead, take.
You can just wallbang everything on that map, bro. It's unreal.
Fair enough.
It's a good map. I like it.
I like it as a map. I think the flow of it's good. I think it is very balanced on both sides and never really felt like it was super one-sided on offense or defense. So I really like the flow of it. I wish we would have seen maybe a couple more changes because I think it was only one map that really got changed for the search and destroy map pool, but I think Coastal was a good addition as far as what the possible options were.
Hippo?
I think with Coastal, it's definitely a good map. I think even though on the competitive side, we've seen a lot of Eastern teams get to play it, it has been in the ranked pool for quite a bit of time now for Search and Destroy. So I think that, players who have played S&D in ranked are going to be somewhat familiar to this. So I don't think we can necessarily count out the Western Hemisphere altogether in terms of familiarity. But at the very least, this does make it so that now the East has a map, at the very least in the early season, where they're going to have a distinct advantage over the West. But the overall design of the map, I agree, is fairly balanced. My personal take is that it's slightly leaning towards defense, but I think it is one of the more balanced maps overall, for sure.
I think that, looking at the map pool, the one that I always kind of selfishly root for is Express to be involved. It's an absolute classic. I know that there is some cheese that comes with it, but I love the map. So a little interesting to not see it be a part of the year this year. And then Control, Raid, Takeoff, we know those. Crossfire, just out of nowhere. What do we feel about Crossfire? Bobby, you got a smirk on your face as wide as Texas.
We very intentionally did not play Crossfire either, just because I haven't heard good things about it. I think it suffers from a lot of the problems that we had with last year's Control map additions. And really, I think the biggest thing that needs to be addressed with the addition of Control maps is the tweaking of spawns before they make their way into the competitive map pool. I think part of the reason that 2 years ago it worked as well as it did is because we did actually get some changes to the spawn points for Standoff and for Raid. Not as much for Crossroads, but still less spawn trap heavy than the addition of Seaside and Arsenal. And from what I've seen, it is a lot of the same issue with Crossfire as well. Crossfire just in general across the community is not what I would consider a beloved map, because it's kind of toxic for the majority of game modes. So that's one that I anticipate we probably won't see a whole lot in the competitive season.
Hippo, thoughts from a strategic standpoint?
Yeah, I think that Crossfire is a map that has been notorious. I've seen the East actually play this at some point with regards to Control specifically, if I recall correctly. I know that the Chinese teams played it before, and I know at the same time that in the early seasons of CDM, if I recall correctly, the very beginning. And, it was used in Search and Destroy, and there's a lot of nostalgia from back then. But as a Control map, it's just very awkward because of the fact that there are some very distinctly strong choke points that exist in the map that allow for some really, really disgusting spawn traps to happen. It's honestly worse than Seaside that's just my humble take when it comes to spawn trapping ability. If you're just able to get a control of certain places in the map, then you're kind of golden. You're just taking out 10 lives just independently from that. So
Tech, have you felt those things from the player perspective? Do you feel like there's just natural spots that just become almost impassable?
I'm gonna be honest. This map was in the map pool the 1 year I lost the regionals. So it's not looking good this year, But actually playing the map, I feel like this map for Control in particular is actually really good. The only thing that is bad, in my opinion, is obviously the spawns, because if someone, let's say if everyone was to push A, someone just leaks through the deli side, they get in your spawn, you're going to spawn in front of them no matter what. There's no split spawns that'll put you inside of a building or something for some sort of cover, no matter what. I feel like Control needs a rework for spawns in particular. But the map itself, I feel like it's pretty well balanced. You could understand where everyone's going. You have to use utilities and maximize it to the most in order to get to where you want to go. It's not something where you just brain dead run through and it's going to work.
That's totally fair.
I think at the very least with this map, there's going to be a lot of complaints about the map because of the fact that people are getting spawn trapped all the time due to the design of the spawn itself. However, what I think is really good about this map, and the one upside that I personally like over Seaside, and honestly over most of the maps in this pool, is that it really tests the fundamentals and basics on both on individual level in terms of a player, because there's so many spots that you have to constantly be checking, so many corners, so many places you can get sniped from, and so you have to be constantly looking for all of these, making sure that you use your utilities at the right points and at the right places, that you throw your smokes, etc., at the right spots. But then the second thing is, as a team, just having just the basic good macro of control, just being able to make sure that you cover your lanes, you don't get too heavily focused on one side, because if you do, then you can allow for a leak to happen that allows for these really bad spawn traps to happen. So
now, this is kind of an off-the-wall topic of conversation to follow up on this, but I think it's intriguing, so why not just throw it out there, see what you guys have to say. Over the last handful of years, I think we all have come to grips with having only 3 maps in control. There typically is always one that we love, there's always one that we typically hate, and it often kind of leads to conversations about the integrity of the game mode as a whole. Now, if we were to go back into the history of like competitive Call of Duty, capture the flag has always been kind of a massive staple of like old school CODs. How do you think a game mode like capture the flag would maybe do better, do worse, not maybe do anything different in terms of being a potential third competitive mode instead of control? Bobby?
I think the chaotic nature of COD Mobile would make it tougher for capture the flag, just because you have 5v5, you have operators, you have so many different types of utility. I feel like that would be a difficult one to add in. And then on top of that, there's not necessarily like another game mode outside capture the flag that there's a good point of comparison. So from the perspective of the casual fan base, that it would take a lot more time for them to understand as compared to control. It's basically like a combination of like Dom and TDM, that type of thing. From a competitive aspect, I don't think it would be unenjoyable to watch. I think it would just be a very big jump for both the players and the viewers to actually understand it well and understand it from a competitive standpoint.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming and DHL.
Snapdragon Pro Series, where it is week 2 in EU for Call of Duty Mobile for our challenge season. Last week, we already qualified one of our teams through to the challenge finals, and we're going to continue on with all of the action here today. My name is Glitter Explosion, and I will be your host, and it's time for us to bring our amazing casters in to get us through our matches for today. We had him on North America. Now it's time to have him in EU. Bobby is back with us here, as well as Proper. Bobby, you ready to dive into a new region?
Absolutely. Obviously, these are players that I've casted before, but this is 2 broadcasts in 24 hours, and it's the first couple of broadcasts I've had in the past year. So we are fully back into the blender and excited to see what EU is bringing to the table today.
Well, you crushed it yesterday when Brody abandoned you solo casting. You're going to do it all over again here today in EU proper week 2 of the challenge season. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty darn good. I mean, we're starting to whittle down some of these teams, especially for this one group that we're taking a keen focus on. I'm interested to be able to see the bounce back for a lot of these teams, to be able to see who's going to combat, with the top 2 being Animus and Exclusive. Could be one of these 2 today.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But if you guys are wondering what we're talking about with last week or any of our other regions currently in their challenge season as well, you can just follow us on social media for all of the latest updates, whether that is X, Insta, or Facebook. That way you can stay up to date on everything that we've got going on. Or, of course, you can join our Discord at discord.gg/Snapdragon Pro Series, where you can join our community, talk all things Call of Duty Mobile, and keep yourselves up to date over there as well. But let's talk about that format, okay? We've mentioned it a few times. You guys should be familiar with it by now, but we'll do a quick review. We've been getting through the competitive side of things pretty quickly. We already did our open qualifiers into our open finals, and then after open finals, the very next week, went straight into our challenge season. And our challenge season is where we're currently sitting with the top 8 teams in the region. Those 8 teams are broken down into 2 groups of 4 for our GSL style format. And then, of course, we're going through both of those groups of 4 because only 4 overall will end up in our challenge finals for April 5th and 6th. Now, I said already, we qualified 1 team in the EU last week. Proper just mentioned, today's a little bit more savage. We're qualifying another team, but we are also eliminating some, okay? It's going to be a really, really fun day to see which teams can stay alive and make their way through to those challenge finals. But of course, if we have the challenge season, we've got a prize pool as well here, Bobby. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, no question. These guys do it for the love of the game, but also the money doesn't hurt either. $2,200 for that first place spot. These guys are definitely going to be battling it out for those top positions and trying to make sure they're setting themselves up well for the rest of the year. Obviously, those top 4 spots, the most coveted of this challenge season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long year. We've got lots of Call of Duty Mobile action coming your way throughout the rest of it. So these teams have to be on top of their game every single step of the way. But if you're wondering what bracket that we're talking about, okay, we mentioned those 2 groups here in EU. We'll take a look at what happened in this group last time around. We got to watch some pretty good matches. At the end of it all, though, it was Exclusive who claimed that first spot proper.
Yeah, I mean, we started off that entire day with the desecration of Underdogs, and we'll talk more about that later, as that's going to be our first matchup. But, you know, we really did feel like S-Cube, the way that they kind of dealt with Hexad in that 3-1 win, that they would be able to step up and kind of handle some of the maps from Exclusive. We never really expected them to win, but they did play them somewhat competitive in a handful of the maps and modes. So, again, double elimination type style. They'll have another opportunity to qualify with the winner of our lower bracket match today.
Yeah, so you guys should get a little bit of a feel here for what we had so far last week in Group A. And like I said, none of those squads that lost were eliminated. We're going to be focusing on that lower bracket, and we will start knocking out teams immediately after that first match. So if you're wondering the schedule, this is it. Just the lower bracket here today for Group A. So we'll be seeing Hexad versus Underdogs. Whoever wins moves on to play against Special Suicide Squad, and whoever loses will be knocked out. Same thing for that second match. Whoever wins claims the second spot in our challenge finals. Whoever loses is knocked out. So it's going to be a busy day today. But you mentioned the performance that we saw between Exclusive and Underdogs. And this was what we knew Exclusive could do, Bobby. We were really hoping to see this type of a performance out of them, but it was especially impressive.
Yeah, I don't think that I expected to see that level of domination early on. Watching the footage back, I think if you're Underdogs, it's kind of tough to have any major takeaways from it because it was just such a one-sided series. from start to finish. Hopefully they were able to at least get some reps in and maybe get a little more familiar with each other, because the competition they're going to be going up against today is going to be far from a pushover.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot, right, Proper? If you don't have a great series, the best you can do is scout for next time and try to rebound.
But you could also just imitate as well. You go back to this entire series and you watch the minimap intently, and you're starting to ask yourself, why is Exclusive getting away with this? Why is Exclusive allowed just to absolutely run through us? And then you go into that next scrim block and you try to recreate that. Obviously, when it comes down to individual mechanical skill, Exclusive been around the block a handful more times than the Underdogs, maybe, but we got to see some good mechanical prowess out from Underdogs. It's all about the macro for them as well. We also heard from that early roundtable discussion from Hippo. Fundamentals are very, very important in a game like Call of Duty Mobile. It's 5v5. You lose track of a handful of players like what we saw from Exclusive versus Underdogs. Yeah, the game's going to get away from you pretty quickly.
And now Exclusive can just wait. They get to watch everybody else, now that they've qualified. They can watch everybody else do the same, see who they're potentially facing off against in the challenge finals, and go in having had a lot of time to work on tons of different strategies against all of these specific teams that they'll be able to see qualify through after them. So that will be a squad we're keeping our eyes on when it comes to the challenge finals. But before we get there, we've got to get the rest of the teams qualified through as well. So let's start talking about this first match that we saw up there on the schedule between Hexad and Underdogs. Both of these teams obviously needing a bounce back from last week, specifically Underdogs after that performance, having gone up against one of the best in the region. But let's talk about what they could potentially bring to the table this time around. We're going to look at the Hexad roster first. And Bobby, talk to me about some of these players.
I mean, there's no question that between these two, this is the more experienced team. You look at past challenge seasons for EU, and you'll recognize the majority of the players that are here. Gore, Daytel, Bushan, Daijin, Mirage, like all these guys are people who at least have experience at the highest level and know what they're doing, know the general work of it, regardless of who they're going to be playing with. So I think heading into this one, it really is the onus on Underdogs to make those adjustments, because these guys are going to be heading into this one with a certain level of confidence. They played very closely in their matchup last week and definitely showed their competence and ability to handle the majority of these maps.
And we kind of had higher expectations of them as well because of that experience that you had mentioned, Bobby. And now they're going to be facing off against Underdogs. And I think as far as Hexad's concerned, they're going to feel good about that. But Underdogs have something to prove here, Proper.
They absolutely do. I mean, their name is kind of living up to its sake, given that they only put up 3 seconds versus one of EU's best in 3 different maps. So yeah, when it comes down to Underdogs, it is kind of a proving moment for them. To Bobby's credit as well, yeah, Hexad have definitely been around a handful of times, but what a pep in your step it could be going into face the next qualification match. If you do take down this team of Hexad, it would feel pretty darn good. And I'm not going to lie, you do have a lot of good utility at your disposal if you are Underdogs. Nigel and his ability to anchor around the spawns, very, very good to have in the back line for this Underdogs roster. He was very impressive to me in that best of 5 versus Troglodyte Tribe. They played him very close, but they still qualified for this very season. Fade and Yao are going to probably be your 2 flanking members that you're probably going to be watching out for if it comes down to Underdogs. I want to see this team get proactive. I want to be able to see that same team that we got to see from the previous season, the reason why they got themselves here. And they have a really good test versus Hexad, walking away from an absolute desecration away from Exclusive not even a few days ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what they were able to kind of whip up here in the past week's worth of prep time. We'll take a look at the picks and bans process here as well and see what they decided they wanted to play on map-wise for this series. Did they pick maps that they think that they're a little bit more comfortable on, or are we going to see another crossfire situation where people are trying to just throw some new stuff in there? And it's there. Hey, Bobby, it's there. All right.
We got to see it last night and actually had some surprises. We saw an offensive round win, maybe even 2, if I remember correctly, on that crossfire. So it's one that I think teams are getting a little bit more comfortable with, starting to understand how to break out of some of those spawn traps and the adjustments that they need to make. If I had to guess, that's probably going to be one of the deciders for this Underdog squad, because across the board they really struggled, but I think especially in the control they maybe put up more of a fight than they did in some of the other modes. So definitely going to be a must win for them.
So we got some good old staples coming through. I mean, Standoff, Search, and Destroy, talk about a tenured map mode combination. Interested to see how that one plays out. Crossfire, who the hell knows? It's Europe and it's control. I don't know. I'm excited to get there, though. But the Tunisia, Search, and Destroy, if we do get to that map 5, surprisingly is actually the one map mode combination that Hexad did struggle against versus Ascension back in the previous season to even qualify for this entire shindig. So it could be an opportunity maybe. I know I'm grasping at straws here, but I love a good underdog story.
Well, let's see what they're willing or what they're ready to bring to the table here today. Which team is going to stay alive in the first series of the day? Chat, let us know your thoughts as well. Do you think it's going to be Hexad who will move on and face off against S-Cubed, or will it be Underdogs? I want to hear your thoughts and see what you think, or who are you even supporting as we head into match number 1, because it should be about ready to go. So, Bobby, proper, let's get this thing underway.
All right.
Should be a good
excited
time
for this first one, and hopefully the underdogs can continue to deliver on some of those underdog storylines. We've not really seen any of the newer rosters, I think especially super new names, really deliver at a high level, and this is maybe a chance to give some hope for other teams out there that are watching that don't have any experience against the high-level teams and want to see if they've got what it takes.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally the Snapdragon Pro Series, like, in a nutshell, right? Like, this is the Pixar moment. Like, you're making your way all the way through the open season, and then you find yourself facing against some very tenured players. And, yeah, I mean, maybe, and you could probably speak more on this, Bobby, being a competitive player yourself as well, is that, like, you're going up against exclusive, and you're, like, a little nervous, but also super excited at the same time. And, yeah, the game can kind of get away from you. Your palms get a little bit sweaty, and you start making some very easy mistakes. And versus these top teams that are very tenured, that have a lot of good fundamentals, they're absolutely going to punish you. So I'm interested to be able to see. I mean, it was a wake-up call and a half for these individuals that find themselves on this pedestal to only put up 3 seconds versus exclusive. To go back and then a week later to go up against Hexad for a chance at redemption. I'm excited.
I feel like calling me a competitive player is a little bit of a stretch, but I do understand where you're coming
Bobby,
from.
you're Bobby Buckets. You almost made it into the season. What are you talking? You're a competitive player in my eyes, Bobby.
All right. Well, I'll take it where I can get it. That almost, unfortunately, only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, but we'll have lots of hand grenades in play in the upcoming matches. As once again, Underdog gonna need to make the most of their utility to have any type of a chance in this one. Trying to remember what the map was. I know we got Standoff for that
Summit.
Search and Destroy in map 2 Summit to get things started, so should be nice and mixy, and probably one that for a newer team like Underdogs you might feel a little bit more comfortable going into, just because it has been around in the competitive map pool so much longer than Slums has, and could be that played a factor in their struggles to get going last week in that first map.
Yeah, sure. But let's just talk about Summit just as like pull the scope out real quick, right? I mean, like, it's a very fast-paced map, and you go back to that Slums Hardpoint map 1 versus exclusive. What was the one thing that they really did struggle with, if you're looking from the Underdog's perspective? It's dealing with the pace that exclusive was bringing to the table. Obviously, I'm talking about apples to oranges at this point in between Hexad and exclusive. Very good two teams, but very different at the same time. But we know some of these players, like you already talked about for Hexad, especially on Summit, because it's been around for such a long time, they're going to start running it down, man. And it's always going to have to come down to that P3 side. Once we start seeing all the operators starting to come online just a little bit more, what's it going to look like for Underdogs to be able to battle back against what I imagine will be Hexad just trying to run them absolutely down? You cannot get rattled on a Summit hardpoint, especially when you have, what would you say, 3 good money hills. Once you get back to P1 for the second time, you could really lock down a lot of good time. Or, again, the game could just be over in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, I think if you're Hexad, your main focus has got to be focusing on the match at hand and not getting ahead of yourself, thinking about that rematch up against Triple S. Obviously, you got to be thinking about that, game planning for it, but you can't guarantee that this has already been won, and that, I think, is probably the only mistake heading into this one that could potentially cost them the series. So I'd like to see them completely locked in from start to finish. And if they are doing that, then that's going to set them up really well for that later matchup, as well as one of the upsides of making a longer lower bracket run is you get a little bit more time to warm up and get ready for those later matches.
You know, it's even better, too. I mean, I know we keep on, like, they're not on our screen yet, but SQ got to be sitting there watching this entire series, right? Like, taking notes, looking at the vetoes, just trying to figure out, like, what they're going to be playing, who's looking hot going in towards that series. I'm a real giddy kid in a candy store right now, Bobby. I'm excited. Let's get this one underway here on the Summit HP. Loser goes home. They're out for the rest of the season.
All right. Couple early kills for Hexad and some early hardpoint time is they're looking I mean I think they've already surpassed their total hardpoint time for their matchup up against exclusive, so they've already surpassed expectations right here. We'll see if they can manage to pick up anything else as they do get wiped off the point, and at least a contest as the feed goes full yellow right there, and showing that maybe last week was a little bit less about how far behind they were and more about just how good exclusive are. Definitely put up a solid fight here early up against Hexad.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The Hexad though, right back in towards the thick of it, finding really good trades, but Underdogs find the favorable side of the kill feed. They're trying to work a little bit more of the high ground, exactly what you want when it's going from 1 towards 2, and a really solid opening P1. Like you said, I mean, we didn't exactly have any expectations for this Underdogs roster, given what we saw versus exclusive. I guess that does really kind of tip your cap to how good that team is as we rotate over towards new. Hexad do have a little bit of a pinch situation setting up for them. Underdogs are putting a lot of time in towards Pain, trying to work this flanking. He dies, so that was your biggest trump card, and you have to rush up through the gut. Hexad still generating time.
Yep. And it looks like spawns are going to stay on that green side for the time being for Hexad. As I say that, they instantly flip out. And Underdogs doing a phenomenal job of making sure they keep bodies on that hard point to contest as much as possible. Hexad go big. That's 5 in the feed right there. And that could be enough for them to flip out those spawns. So they'll continue to pick up time and now establish the map position that they're looking for as they get ready to set up for the P3 rotations. Big gunfight in the backside goes the way of Hexad. And it looks like they've got the setup that they're looking for. Underdog's going to look to get as much scrap as they can and continue to apply pressure toward those spawns, and they may be able to flip them out. They do exactly that, and in perfect position to pick up these scraps.
P2 was still active, right? So you still had players all the way past maybe like, I want to say like a quarter of the map. You're still forcing a couple more spawn outs to actually occur. The way that Underdogs were manipulating the map, pushing forward past P2, force Hexad to spawn out, and now you're in the back. But you had to pull some operators, and you had to find some big moments. Hexad, more than aware of that from the front. It's the War Machine that does its justice. Daytel also has a Pred missile just to call the full-on break. There's still one player in towards the back. It's Nigel, but Underdogs off the respawn now have a couple operators of their own right off in towards the re-break, but still Hexad very sticky positions. They're still holding on.
Nigel's going to win the big gunfights in the backside, but unfortunately, none of his teammates going to be able to come out on top in their 1v1. So now they're left in the reverse spawn trap right here. Strong side spawns, but not actually able to make any entry into the hard point, and they are getting ripped to shreds. Phenomenal utility out of those operators for the Hexad squad. And right now, you're just trying to stop spawning in that backside. One player's already made their way through. That's Yao fighting for those new spawns. And it is an absolute battlefield miles away from the active hardpoint. It looks like Hexad going to come out on top in those later gunfights as well. And that'll set them up well here for P4 as they get ready to lock in time. Gore, Pred missile has been earned, and Mirage locking down those back spawns.
I mean, just think about all the utility that Hexad had at their disposal just to continuously re-break that money hill. And now have a 60-point lead. Gravity Vortex gun coming through immediately just blows one in the face the moment that they step through. And these spawns in towards the back are under threat. I mean, Underdogs, this is the same thing that happened in P3. They're trying to fight for the spawns, but the kill feed hasn't been convincing, and more util is coming through. Again, it feels like they always have Predator missiles to try to bail them out, but Pain breaks right back in, finds a really good kill feed. Bakor with another Pred missile, calls it in, finds another 2 in the feed, and Hexad are continuously keeping it scrappy, Bob.
Yeah, Underdogs had things really close to those first couple of hard points, but they have really struggled to do anything to lock down these spawns, even when they've had, or lock down the hard point, even when they've had the strong spawns. So it seems like Hexad getting a little bit more comfortable in this one, despite a slow start for them, and they've already got players in position for P1 as well. Death Machine's going to be able to earn 1. And Underdogs get a solid feed right here, but it's really been about the holds, and they've not been terribly strong so far in this one. Nigel locking down back stairs, gets information on one player looking to entry, but Death Machine going to keep them alive for the time being. They reinforce the hard point as they try to chip away at this lead that Hexad have been able to build.
This is a really good moment as well. I mean, P1 in the second set, this is what I was talking about. You can actually turn this into a money hill Fade with the Death Machine. Gonna be the opening. Maybe to set up Underdogs continuously. As like you said, Nigel's constantly trying to fight for these back stairs, but Hexad worked their numbers. They broke right back in. Now they have the high ground control. This is well before the rotation towards new is even fully required. These are really good kills that Hexad are finding across the map.
They've been able to build up to 80 points on this lead right here. And somehow, even with only 2 players on the hard point, they've been able to hold off the push from Underdogs to try to get some scrap. They finally find the break on through, but nobody stays on the point. And once again, time just being given away for free when you're down by this much. You got to make sure to capitalize on every possible bit of scrap. Unfortunately for Underdogs, they've not done a good job of doing that. It seems like maybe the communication lacking a little bit where these players need to be. We're going to be able to find one nearly a second before being taken out. We see some of that util coming out. War Machine for Fayaz, not going to connect, but the hard point reinforced regardless as some of those streaks rain down. Mirage, Claw coming out as well. At every turn, the pacing for the operators and the util has been so good for Hexad as compared to Underdogs.
Yeah, I had a gravity vortex gun just to try to combat it against what the War Machine already found, and then like you were talking about, just more util just being poured out. And got Gore with the Death Machine as well. It's just finding multi-kills, just making sure nobody can work through some of these choke points. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you go back towards that P1 in all of the scrap time. I know we're playing like the same fiddle over and over again, that the fundamentals are kind of getting thrown by the wayside. Underdogs are trying to play for these power positions continuously, which is correct, but then they start to lose the numbers like you were talking about there, Bob. And, you know, you get a couple players that work a couple flanks, they find a 2-piece, and your entire setup goes kablooey. Majin's already in towards the back, trying to threaten these spawns, won't be able to do so. Underdogs in towards the back, and the War Machine's going to get popped early to try to get the initial time.
And at this point, Underdogs just trying to break through that 100-point mark. They have really struggled after that first rotation of P2. I think they're at 40, 50 points, and since then, it's just been a completely one-sided matchup. Daytel, once again, just holding from that weak side. They don't have the spawn control, but somehow still able to get the better of the gunfights. Underdogs looking to break from the back. Even with the operators coming out, they can't seem to win those gunfights. And once again, find themselves in the reverse spawn trap where Hexad have seemed very, very comfortable just farming those kills and locking in hardpoint at the same time.
Raj is in the best spot for just that spawn trap altogether. I mean, one gets through, but Hexad just have such a good hold from the front that they might just end things here. They will get the tick. They know that spawns have flipped. One spawns in towards the back, but Daytel's got an equalizer, and he's just gonna run you down. Try as you might, Payne might find the trade, but this is a Hexad map 1 win. Unless they get the last second contest, it doesn't come through. It was just a mustachio's hair away, but simply not meant to be. Hexad, a dominant map 1 win.
Underdogs gave me a lot of hope in those first couple of hard points, but I mean, after that, it just got blown wide open. And I think the difference between the two teams really showed on P3, where despite having those strong side spawns, like P3 is one of the most spawn-determined hard points in the entire COD Mobile competitive map pool. If you can't hold a hard point when you've got those spawns, you don't have much of a hope of actually outlasting a team in a map. And unfortunately, Hexad's experience, their gunny really showed out at the end right there. Dominant win, put them in a 100-point club. Definitely off to a good start as they're looking to build momentum heading into the rest of these maps.
It's just not what you like to see, right? I mean, like, Nigel keeps trying to be the route man, right? And what do we always say in COD? Like, route man gets paid, but like, Nigel was doing everything he possibly could to get these back spawns for 4 and for 3, and constantly trying to fight for stairs to try to get a good position for 2. And it just felt like that every single time that they were in 3 and 4, they immediately got put into a spawn trap and an immediate blunder soon to follow. It's just really, really tough when you're trying to play just so sound, and then it goes absolutely awry. It was a fantastic game number 1 for the usual suspects out of Hexad. Gore, right at the top, 31-22. Daytel, a real nuisance, though, especially towards the end, was a real force to be reckoned with. And honestly, one of the sole reasons, in my opinion, that Hexad were able to do what they did there on the P2 to P3 rotation. But I digress. This was an absolute butt-whooping for Hexad versus Underdogs. So you going towards the search and destroy now, Bob, and you just hope that you're able to kind of like wipe the slate clean. I don't know, like wipe some sweat off your brow. Like, what are you telling yourself going into the standoff map too?
I mean, the search and destroy in COD Mobile is usually the mode of the underdog, just because you get a reset after every round. You maybe don't have quite as much of a snowball effect, so maybe an opportunity for them to make something there. Credit to Fade from Underdogs. He somehow managed to go positive and had the most hardpoint time, so he was really the only person putting up a fight for them. And once again, you're heading into a standoff where this is a Hexad squad that's going to have a lot of experience, a lot of reps on this map. This has been in the map pool for pretty much the entirety of COD Mobile's competitive history, so it's going to be far from a walk in the park, but you just got to put things out of your mind and understand that this is an elimination matchup, and you desperately need to be able to take as much as you can in those non-respawn modes.
Yep. Biggest problem about all this too is we get the best of 5 map set to pop up once again. That was Underdog's map pick, and that map number 1. This is Hexad's map pick. So I'm not a betting man, Bobby, but I would definitely go on a limb and say that this might have to be a full-on reverse sweep if Underdogs want to try to win this entire series. However, it's like you said, search and destroy is an underdog story. You potentially, and I'm not saying that just from a team's perspective. I just really like an underdog story. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And for Search and Destroy could be a place where they catch Hexad by surprise. Tunisia versus Ascension, way back in Open Finals. Hexad did struggle. They gave up 4 rounds on Tunisia, and these were rounds that were very, very close-knit that they still won in the end. Underdogs might catch them by surprise here, Bobby.
All right, well, they find first blood off the start right here, getting aggressive toward A. Daytail completely trapped, but he's going to find 2 and searching for more. Yao there for the shutdown. But the better of the trades, at least initially, go the way of Hexad. Yao going to be able to find 1 onto Gore, so now things slowed down substantially. The bomb in hand for Pin is Mirage going to be able to find 1 onto Yao, needing a 1v2 right here. And he could not be in a worse spot, completely trapped in this box. They're going to push it once, but they push 1 at a time. He's able to find 1, but can't find the second. Mirage picks up the kill, and opening round goes to Hexad.
I mean, you really did think there for a second that if he got the centering and understanding he was going to get flanked in the cube, might have been able to get that little quick scopey off, but not going to be the case. Underdogs, they had that first blood, but good smokes in the corners. Allows Daytail to lurk over by Tractor for that A defense. We're going back over towards A once again. Ceremonious nades over the top. Watch player number 1. Faiz is on a very hot flank. Nobody's watching it, but it may not matter. Hexad are just straight up winning the gunfights up front.
Yeah, that was nasty movement out of Mirage to be able to get the pistol win onto Yao. They cleaned things up in a 22-second round right there. And handling business as expected. It seems like the change in approach has not really done a whole lot for Underdogs. Honestly, I wouldn't hate to see them go back to a full send to A, just because I feel like the 50-50 gunfights nearly give them a better chance than what we're seeing out of them right here. And it looks like they're going to take that similar approach. 4 players on into A. Unfortunately, Majin going to tear down 3. Mirage finds another. And the gunny death just glaringly obvious through these first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, Majin, much like they tell in that first round, right? You get over by Tractor, you get inside a cube and get those stuns, nades forward in a really good position with a sub to be able to do, well, exactly that. At least they know now that Fias is going to be flanking all the way past Delhi, past the gas station. They're late. They're going for a little bit of alteration. Nades over towards Tractor. Hexad have numbers over there, but they're immediately pushing inside of Brown. Trying to work this B bomb plant. They got the numbers to do so as well here, Bobby.
Yeah, they're going to be able to find 2 to open. Majin actually gets aggressive toward boxes right there, and it pays off. Gore backed up, going to get shut down, and now an opportunity for Underdogs to find their first round. Daytail shuts down Yao. Even things out a little bit right here, but all the pressure onto Majin. 3 players around him right now, needs to find at least 1 right here, does exactly that, fades there for the trade. And now the pressure onto Daytail to clutch up in the 1v2.
He's got the USS-9. Gun's pretty darn good, I'm not gonna lie. And he's got the read back of the hotel. Oh, they're trying to check every corner. The slide comes through. They're both not looking, but Nigel gonna get the trade and a round win for the Underdogs. Finally on the board. That play was weird, right? Because, I mean, like, you had all of this hotel control inside of Brown, and you could have planted the bomb at B, but your bomb carrier is lurking outside of Bakery. The Underdogs got to figure it out. At least they got a round on the board.
Yep. Definitely much needed, and a very different approach once again is now they send 3 players toward gas station side. Pressure onto Fayaz to deal with at least one of these players. Smoke doesn't go down, but the shotgun connects anyway. Still one on the inside, but the shots aren't there. So now it's equalized into a 4v4, making a 4v3. As Pin's able to take down one, Fade with another, and Underdogs finding a little bit of momentum right here as Hexad maybe looking a little shaky on the defensive side of things. Daytel really needed to find that pick, and now with the information given to Underdogs, they can make the adjustments. 3 players ready to push through. As long as you're able to find this trade, it's everything, but he doesn't even need a trade. Pin's going to be able to find one with the shotgun, and now Gore at a 1v3 finds the opener.
Yeah, but it's Gore. Don't give him so many isolated challenges. Just misses outside. Would have been traded regardless, but yeah, Underdogs really starting to figure things out. It's just the raw aggression didn't work. 50-50 gunfights, checking corners quickly meant that Majin or Daytel were probably going to be there to find a 3-piece. But this nade over the top towards A and working into the backside of Brown has been working wonderfully. Fayaz will be here again. He's starting to push out through Delhi. They get that info, and he saw 3 members. He's trying to get the hell out of dodge, but he cannot.
Very unusual approach. Everybody full sends back alley, but the adjustments seem to be here for Hexad. They just got to win the gunfights. Unfortunately for them, Fade comes out on top in the opener. Majin does read one, getting a little bit over aggressive, and I'm not sure what the game plan is here, but it seems to be working as they find the picks, and only one player remains to the 4 of Underdogs. Completely caught off guard right there. Bomb's going to go down on B, and I don't think Majin's going to read the one player through to spawn right here. He does. Still 3 more to be dealt with, and if you're Underdogs, all you got to do is sit back and wait for him to get aggressive right here. It seems like they should have the positioning. Oh my gosh, what a spot. Alex nearly got spotted right there, but ends up coming away with the kill.
I was like, I already like that file cabinet. Couldn't even see him. A 3-3 half. Not what I was expecting with the way that things started in the standoff map number 2. But I'll tell you what, his Underdogs roster really punishing Hexad for all of this isolation. That was a really weird counter rotation to the back Grandmas, but an even weirder offense. How about a strange defense to start out? Underdogs are just running at them through gas station. Majin is just lurking. They knew that they were on defense this time, right? We good?
I think so.
Okay.
I think they're just trying to do like the most unexpected thing possible and praying that it works regardless of whether or not strategically it actually makes any sense. It's the element of surprise that has been their biggest asset so far, and it's earned them 3 rounds. We'll see if these 2 players can make something out of this 2v4. Probably going to be a little bit more difficult to catch them off guard, but Nigel's going to be able to find the opener. Now going to group up right here. Not exactly what I would expect in this scenario, but I might just try to brute force past barrels, and I think one player should have been spotted right there, but maybe didn't realize?
Uh-oh. And Daytel's just going to be right there. Yeah, I don't think
I didn't see him.
No nameplate, nothing, just barely even like poking off a forehead. The lighting didn't hit it correctly, so didn't see that glaring forehead, unfortunately, but all right, Underdogs. Running straight through back alley out of Grandma's for a defensive spawn. Not exactly what you want to see. Hexad, though, they love the aggression. Look at all these nades over towards top A. Those are definitely going to connect. It's going to slow off the push inside a Q, but Nigel, undeterred, finds 2. Keeps things even for Underdogs now that they know that a Hexad are trying to go for the plant, but Underdogs, though, try to chow for the information. They isolate themselves, Bobby, and Hexad should have the life advantage. Until Yao comes in, finds 2, a 1v1.
This engagement should happen sooner rather than later, but timing goes crazy right here. Neither player spots out the other. And now Pin trying to figure out where Daytel has made his way to. Oh my god, the timing could not have been any worse for Pin right there. Daytel just sneaks right out the front of Delhi at the best time possible and clutches up the round for Hexad. Once again, a round that could have very well gone either way, but sometimes the COD timing is just not on your side.
And the objective.
Quite literally in that exact moment. Or it could be absolutely on your side, like it was for Daytel. Bomb carrier up to 10 kills now. Nades over top of the A. Hexad can smell blood in the water, but Underdogs in this aggressive approach just has not been working out. You're playing right into the hands of Hexad, who have full coverage of the A bomb.
And absolutely obliterated his Fade. Gore snipe across mid. And still the trades are there, so the round's not completely out of reach for Underdog, but they've allowed these planes to go down fairly easily in most of these scenarios, and it just makes it so much more difficult with how spread out Hexad are. Calculated bomb plant positions to not make anything easy, allow you to play from a lot of different angles, and now only one player remains. Alex got to try to clutch up in a 1v2 right here. Really need this round, but it's not going to be there as Hexad is really executing at a high level on these offensive rounds.
I mean, the only one that's like getting egregious off of the initial execute would be Fayez. He with that KRM shotgun, just trying to rush into the backside of Grandma's. He'll be initially traded, or he'll be traded inevitably, but the Underdogs hoping for a square up back over towards A. Hexad said, nah, we're going to try on that flavor that we saw out of y'all for a handful of rounds. We're going all the way back deli. Now, Nigel's late to read this, but he's got a really good gun to deny it. Finds first blood, doesn't expect the second, but he gets away.
Ooh, and nearly had an opportunity there, but maybe a little over aggressive. Hexad now pick up 2 and Yao force back and just kind of guessing where the offense is going to be coming from. The map is pretty much completely flipped on its head as the planters are now in the opposite spawn. And the trades are there for Alex, but it's still going to be a 2v2. As once again, we see the wrap back toward that B side. Bomb is in hand for Hexad, and they've still got a minute and change to work with.
Yeah, plenty of time. And they're going to try to work back over towards B. They got the confirmation. Alex was still lurking over here. They don't know where Fade is, though. And Alex and Fade, they might just have the correct read on this. How about some good Call of Duty timing? You gunnies better be ready.
Sniper down.
Great shots out of Alex. Takes down Gore. And realistically, you think that you're living to see another day. Alex and Fade, they think that it went back over towards A. They are so scared. They have no idea where Daytel is. He has the bomb. And you feel like Daytel has a chance with the USS-9 with the way that they're totaled up right now.
Yeah, they really just want to play for the retake. And this might be the right approach right here. If Fade can come out on top, no kill to be found for Daytel. And especially with only 20 seconds remaining, that's outside of getting the kill about as well as Underdogs could have hoped that would go. So now you would think they make an adjustment and try to check one of these bomb sites, but they continue to just sit there. Nope. And they're going to let Daytel get the bomb plant down for free?
It's planted for both top Grandmas and the top side up round. That's exactly where Daytel's going to go. He's got the Locust, the quick scope onto Alex. 1v1 versus Fade for the map. Or for Underdogs just to stay alive. He's got the read up top. The damage advantage is all there. And Daytel rips him apart. A 1v2, not like this.
That's a tough way to go out, because they had, especially after you get the information on where he is, wrapping back into P4, like, you should have what you need to check at least one of the bomb sites, and they continue to just sit there, hold the cross, and let him set up for whatever he wants to do to hold off a retake, and he executes to perfection. Especially once you got that sniper picked up, you've given yourself so much of an advantage in that situation.
Man, those 3 rounds that we saw from Underdogs on the offensive side was all just but the last bit of air escaping the balloon. That's tough, man. You had everything in your way to win that round and at least extend it towards the next, but golly. And just to hit it one more time for the people in the back, Bobby, like, if you get the information where you last saw Daytel, you know where he's not. Y'all are both looking at the A bomb site. He has to go B. Just go check it. It's as simplistic as that. Now you find yourself down 0-2 to Hexad, who very much so would love a rematch versus S Cubed. And Daytel just had a masterclass of map number 2, 12 and 7. He's going to be feeling pretty damn good about himself ahead of the Crossfire.
Yeah, no question. With that being a newer map, like, I don't anticipate the Underdogs can expect any type of major advantage in this one. And especially with how much we've seen Hexad snowball some of these games, it's going to be really, really tough for them. You really just got to pray that you can find your way into a round 5 and have the defense going into it, because that's kind of the only scenario where I see they could potentially do something here. We've seen at moments that the gunny has been up to the task to win some of these gunfights, but it does feel like the chemistry is a little bit lacking for this squad, and you would think this is a map where they're really going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Crossfire, I mean, y'all were breaking it down on your whole digital round table discussion. I don't know. You guys need to figure that one out. I feel like there needs to be an actual table. I digress. Is that Crossfire is a map that breeds aggression, but it can also completely play against the aggression if you are checking all of these corners. And there are a lot of corners to check, especially on the defensive side. Opening breakoffs, you might just lose one of the two zones very, very quickly, the way that we saw the gunnies working from Hexad. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is going to be a tough ask for Underdogs. We've seen some bright spots out of them throughout this series. You got to put it all together and start the reverse sweep.
And they're going to be on offense to get things started right here, so that much more difficult, because now you head into this one, and more than likely the defense should be able to snowball and get the early operators to take that much more advantage. They do actually get on to B earlier than expected. Maybe a bit of a misread from Hexad, but they should be able to find at least one right here. It does look like they're going to be able to get that progress cleared off. And unfortunately for Underdogs, you've only been able to find 2 kills so far in this one. The more those kills get out of line, the faster we're going to see Hexad start to push in for that spawn trap.
I'll make it 4 now. 26 plays up against 18. And yeah, I mean, Fayez has never moved from that position until he finally lost his life. Underdogs back on the onslaught. Over towards B they go. One player on the flank, though. It's going to be Majins. Finds one. Pin is back towards the respawn screen. They're just kind of trapped inside of this building right now, man. They can't get over towards B. The gunfight's just too easy for Hexad. Sub 1 minute. At least you got the first segment locked to B.
Majin's already been able to earn that pred, so once again, if things start to get close, he can force things back, get some information, but it doesn't really look like he's going to need it. 10 life gap between these two teams. As long as you've got this top position locked down, just so many different angles that you can cover. Bayaz now getting pushed up for some spawn trap pressure, and a couple kills go the way of Underdogs, but only so much that you can do once you've gotten into this position. The life's just going to be such a factor. They're able to stop the clock for a little bit, but they get wiped off right here, and it looks like round 1 should be all but guaranteed for Hexad.
Yep. Absolutely looking that way. And they're stopping out the clock. Getting segments is good even in a losing fashion, but Mirage is going to slide out from the bakery. They immediately line up a handful, finds a lot more damage. Last alive is Nigel, and Maj is just going to collect all 3 of them. Okay, so yeah. You remember when I was talking about the opening breakoff, Bobby? That's exactly what you didn't want to see if you're a fan of the Underdogs. But if you're a fan of Hexad, that's great, because now Majin has an operator coming in towards this. You'd imagine he's probably going to pop it pretty early.
Yep, would not be surprised to see it. I mean, Gore's only got 1 kill, but I would imagine more because of lack of opportunity to find gunfights than anything else. It looks like Hexad going to get aggressive here all the way up that B side. They get 3 players now on toward that objective. Some of the operators start to come out. Couple of streaks raining down as well, and some early time on what is most certainly the more difficult objective to capture. And it's a pretty convincing opening for them. It's an approach that I don't think I've seen a whole lot, but it absolutely worked.
Sure did. So got player Gore talked about how he had 1 kill coming in towards this round. Well, he started off with 4, so definitely lack of opportunity. I will go ahead and say that much. You still have operators left to play if you are Hexad. I mean, if you need it. Here comes the claw from Mirage just to clear everything through these upper stairs. Has so much space forward on A. It's a solo player capture. The reason being Hexad just want to demolish him.
Looks like they've already got 2 takes on both objectives, and still 3 operators to work with as well. So even though they haven't built much of a life lead, doing it on the offensive side in and of itself is impressive to start. Underdogs able to find a couple right there, so they wipe off 1 tick of progress, but they've got very little margin for error. Beauty of a wall bang with the Odin right there through that metal building. The life lead now down to 1. Some of the operators start to come out for Underdogs, so if they can find good value here, Yao's going to be able to find 2 with the grab. You got a Sparrow and a War Machine. That's heavy investment. I mean, with that amount of investment, you got to be looking for a spawn trap, and I don't think there's anybody really in position to apply that pressure. So Mirage on the top side is going to be able to break through, and even despite that investment, not a whole lot of value found for Underdogs.
Gore's going to pull out the death machine. Going to die immediately, but you get those 3 operators to pop out of Underdogs. You're really hoping for them to push somewhere past bus station, maybe get some kitchen control, but I think they're just more worried about that last segment just going away, that they never really worry about trying to get past A-bomb or worried about players constantly pushing through the shack, like where we see Faez. And the numbers are remaining even, but it's allowing Hexad to slowly encroach towards the B zone, get some bus stop control, and put Underdogs back on the back burner.
Still only 2 lives separating these two, and would not be surprised if Pin decides to pull out the operator here to give them a chance, but that life lead getting more and more out of hand, especially 2v6, 1v5, just not really realistic to expect around here. To lose a defensive round on Crossfire, you got to think if there was much hope left in the tank, it's probably all but gone for Underdogs. 3 operators here to start for Hexad, and I would imagine they'll likely try to apply that pressure early and see if they can set up a spawn trap to end this last round quickly. At least what they would assume would be the last round. There's the Grab Vortex coming out and doing ridiculous damage.
That is disgusting. And you go back to that first offense too, like Underdogs, they went for a split push all the way through B. Hexad were expecting maybe some resistance on the backside of that A control zone, but none was met. It was all just a 5-player push over towards the bus stop, just hoping to be able to win the opening break off and get over towards B, but you can see the kill feed. You can see the equalizers again out from Daytel. Just so many resources wonderfully used one by one from Hexad just to have a immediate 10 life lead. There's only 45 seconds remaining, and Underdogs are probably going to have to expunge, what would you reckon, maybe 8 lives just to get out of the spawn trap? Maybe? I don't even think they're getting out anymore. Never mind.
No, it's over at this point. They've got every possible heady locked down and shredding them one by one. Fade, Death Machine, gonna see if he can find a way to break out, but shots just don't connect one bit. And Majin somehow stays alive, gets a full reload, and still does not get taken down. Teammate's gonna do the rest of the damage. 21 lives versus 6. And the clock, if anything, is going to end this one early with only 6 seconds remaining. You do see the equalizers come out for Pin, but 1v19 is not a miracle that you could hope from even the best of COD Mobile teams. 3-0 for Hexad in the map and in the series, and they will now have an opportunity to see if they can lock in a spot in the Challenge playoffs.
Yeah, they get exactly what they want to locking in towards the Sunday, right? You get the rematch versus S-Cube. Great, you look strong here versus Underdogs, maybe minus dealing with some of their antics on the standoff search and destroy, but it was so unorthodox, I'm not even going to put an asterisk next to it. This was a good look for Hexad. Again, like we kind of put it up on the pedestal, these are tenured names. We expect them to do well in the European region. When it comes down to the Snapdragon Pro Series, this is the step in the right direction on their fine Sunday, Bobby.
Yeah, no question about it. We wanted to see them build some momentum heading into this next one, and I would say they did that about as well as could be expected. Like you said, the search and destroy probably could have looked a little bit cleaner, but that's not necessarily one that you can completely fault them on. So getting some extra reps on some of these newer control maps definitely should make them feel a little bit more comfortable heading into the pick bans. And with the way that they played Triple S last week, I would not be surprised if we saw that series go much longer than we saw this one.
Yeah, it is very, very possible. Again, when it comes down to it, Hexad versus S-Cubed went to map 4. Everything was close besides the crossfire control, so should be an interesting one. Players leaving on the winning team, I ain't never seen it before. Mirage, though, 23-10. This one absolutely bonkers. Daytel off of that 1v2 clutch from the standoff search and destroy continue on with their majestic onslaught, 15-9. It just felt like once the round did start, maybe minus the offense of Hexad, or of Underdogs, excuse me, Hexad just never looked back.
Yep, no question about it. They earned that spot.
The next round, all right? They're all right. GG, go next, right? They've got to prepare. They're now going to face off against S-Cubed, and that's the match that they've probably mentally been the most focused on, because that's what determines if they make it their way through to the challenge finals or not. So that's the one everyone's focusing on. Excuse me. And that's, I think, where all of the stress is really going to lie. Now, obviously, Special Suicide Squad got to watch this whole matchup, see how Hexad was going to play against Underdogs, kind of use that information to their advantage. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we'll take a look at the bracket, obviously see how it stands after this match is done. But we're focusing on the lower bracket if anybody at home is just joining us. And that was a decisive final map in the series of Hexad versus Underdogs, a 3-0 overall. But generally, like you guys have been mentioning, this is going to at least give them a little bit of momentum heading into this next matchup here proper.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. I mean, get a 1v2 out of Daytel on a standoff search destroy, things that he had no business doing. You go back towards that Summit Hardpoint, the back-to-back spawn traps 3 and 4 through 2 sets of hardpoints. The crossfire control, albeit maybe one round was kind of a little bit more back and forth than I'm sure that Hexad had wanted, but it's like Bobby already kind of phrased, right? Like we're getting reps on these new map mode combinations for the Snapdragon Pro Series in this very season, so I can't really fault them not one bit, but they do look very strong. They look poised, and I think that if you're SQ, yeah, the map vetoes better be pretty good in your favor because they look strong on the 3 maps we just saw them on.
And we talk about how important those are all the time. And, you know, just the small fact as well, Bobby, that Hexad are now coming in warm, whereas S-Cubed have just kind of been waiting in the wings, seeing how it's all going to play out.
Or something, because this is definitely not the time that you want to be messing around, but especially just because you can't really a scrim can never replicate an actual tournament match. So you know the blood's got to be flowing a lot more for Hexad going into this one, and with how closely they were able to play pretty much every map in that series up against Triple S, they've got to be feeling good heading into this one. I'm hoping that this goes down to a map 5.
A little bit of a rematch here from the last time these teams saw each other. Obviously, commiserations to Underdogs who put up a good fight there in that matchup. But at the end of the day, Hexad have to move on and focus on a new challenge. And you guys see that QR code periodically popping out throughout the stream. Well, if you've been enjoying all of the clips that we've been showing, either leading into the show or during our breaks between matches, those are clips from the podcast that Bobby himself got to be a part of, that round table discussion. So scan that if you want to see the entire full-length thing. That's over on our YouTube. Really, really cool conversations, so check that out. And you know, hopefully you guys have been enjoying that. Hopefully you're down to do more of those, Bobby, because I've loved it so far.
Oh, absolutely, no question. There's never a lack of things to talk about when it comes to COD Mobile Esports. So anytime the boys want to talk COD Mobile, I'm here. Good.
I love it. Hopefully all of you at home have been loving it as well. Now, we've talked about it a couple times. Obviously, this match is getting set up as we are speaking, so we have to give our players a little bit of time to reset and to go through that entire pick ban process for the maps for the next series. So while they're doing that, we're going to send it to a short break, and when we return, the second spot of the challenge finals will be decided. Don't go anywhere.
Picking up my energy. The music never stops. They play my song on repeat, on repeat. I'm flying till I hit the sky. The melody is getting high. You know how to free my mind, my mind.
I hold shift with Bobby Plays, and this is Sound of a Gun. Bobby, we've got 5 default weapon sounds for you. You're gonna do your best, try to place them. I will say the lowest number right now is from Tectonic. You only got 1 right. Some of them are tricky, some of them are a little bit easier. You ready for it? You ready?
I'm ready. I'm just warning you. I did a stream series like 2 weeks ago where I used literally every gun in the game. So if I don't go 5 for 5 here, I'm gonna be really disappointed.
Damn. Okay, that's setting the bar. Let's just kick it right off. Here is sound number 1.
That would be the M4.
Woo! Coming in hot. Bobby's already starting off 1 for 1. Wow, this is going to be fun. All right, right on in. Sound number 2.
I'm 90% positive that is the buy 15.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
You'd be right. Oh my goodness. The content creator's about to smoke all of the pro players we've had in this.
Yeah. The other day I was playing with Tech and I was like, was that the sound of an HBR? He's like, how do you know what an HBR sounds like? I was like, how do you not know what an HBR sounds like?
Oh, mercy me. All right, let's see if this one throws you for a little bit of a loop. Here's sound number 3.
That's a tough one.
Ooh.
So it's between the katana and the spear, but it sounds like a double swing, which the katana does not do. I don't ever actually swing with my melees. I just use them to run faster. I'm gonna go spear.
You would be incorrect. It's the axe.
No!
Oh, it's the axe.
That's
Oh,
tragic.
no.
Okay. All right.
He was right there. Right
I
there.
can-
You
I
got
can-
there. You just didn't finish.
I can take the L on that one. That's
Okay.
That's one that I don't think I've used in years.
That's fair. Okay, here comes sound number 4.
So I would have bet money on that being the M4.
No, not the M4. I will say, I think this one is a giveaway at the end of the magazine, personally.
And say the ASM 10?
We went to Cold War with the Krig 6.
That is not the Krig 6. They didn't download the model. That is the M4 default sound on the Krig 6. That is not the Krig 6.
Whoa! Shots fired. I just worked here. Let's play sound number 5.
I'm just letting you know that it is not the Krig 6.
All right, well, here's sound number 5.
RUS-79U. Or RUS...
Bang! He nailed it. No one's gotten that one right. Actually, no. One other person's gotten that one right. Fira got that right. So you're in good company there. That's not bad. You missed the axe, which was, I think, the surprising one. But I also get it. If you've been running just nothing but regular weapons, you forget about the melees sometimes.
Yep. I'll take the L on that one.
Not bad, though. A very
it.
solid 3 out of 5. Mr. Bobby Plays and Sound of a Gun. Thanks for watching.
Let's go. Put it in motion. Baby, we're going faster, 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 faster. Seizing the moment. Baby, keep going faster, 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 faster. Speed up, make that thing rough. Foot on the gas so you got nothing left. Let's drive to the top of the mountain and see the view. Let's vibe, looking back on the journey, just me and you. Ain't nobody wanna go slow. Yeah, I was chilling in the past, I was solo. Now that I got you in my life, I'm like, go, go. I be living for the thrill of it. Whoa, whoa. I hear you like to gamble. Let's take the road, let's travel. No, I'm a lot to handle, but I wanna go fast with you. Think we could go the distance, although I know we're different. Together we both fit it, so I wanna go fast with you. Put it in motion, baby, we're going faster, 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 faster. Seizing the moment, baby, keep going faster.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming and DHL.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Snapdragon Pro Series. We were getting into our second, and believe it or not, final matchup of the day here for Group A. And this one will be not only eliminating a team, but also determining the second squad in EU to make their way through to the Challenge Finals. We've swapped out our casters as well. We've still got Bobby, but we've brought Infinity in for match number 2. Brody, thoughts on match number 1, and are you excited for the second one? Can't hear you. No. Cannot hear you. Okay, I actually am an amazing lip reader. So what he's saying is he is incredibly excited to be here for you. He watched the first match. Hexad did what he thought they were going to do, so he's proud of them. Well fought on behalf of Underdogs, but it's all going to come down to SQ. Bobby, is this not exactly what he said? I'm so good at this game.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that you got it word for word. So good job. If casting doesn't work out, then you have a future in lip reading. It's going to be a great matchup, no question about it. These two did not disappoint the first time around, and hoping that we see a very similar outcome this time, regardless of who comes out on top.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you guys are just joining us here at home, we'll take one more look back at the bracket for a quick refresher before we get into this next match. Like we said, we just saw Hexad and Underdogs battle it out. 3-0 in favor of Hexad, who have to feel good now, going in against Special Suicide Squad. Now, they did face off, like Bobby was mentioning before the break, in that upper bracket. It was 3-1 in favor of S Cubed. S Cubed moved on, and they lost against Exclusive, who was our first team to qualify through to the Challenge Finals. So, S Cubed have had a pretty difficult opponent to face off against in Exclusive, to say the least, and now they're going up against a team that they've already beat, but they're coming in cold versus Hexad, who's coming in warm. Do we have you back here, Brody? Well, I do. I hear you.
I hear you. Oh,
all right. Well, then we'll get there here in a second. So now let's talk about this match here. We've got S Cubed and Hexad. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on S Cubed here, Bobby.
I think that they looked very strong across all the modes that they played. Obviously, the Hardpoint was kind of their go-to, taking both of the Hardpoint maps. Search and Destroy definitely looked a little bit up and down, but overall, I think that they're a team that, even though it's not a lot of players that I really recognize, seems like they have a lot of chemistry between them, and I think should put up a good fight, if not finding a way into those challenge finals. I think they're not going to be a team that Hexad mess around with, and hopefully they're a little bit more prepared heading into this one.
Yeah, don't worry, everybody at home. We'll be getting Brody in here in just a second. Now, I'm looking back at the notes from the last time these two squads faced off against each other, and Hexad were able to get that win in the Kurahana S&D. So once again, we talk about just how important those map picks and bans are going to be when it comes to this next match, because if they're able to find something that works well for them, hopefully they can get that through in the process and see if they can use their momentum as well as their success they found last time around, and see if maybe they can do something different.
Yep, no question. I think the map picks are going to play a big role in this, but overall, I think really it's just got to be pressure onto Hexad to find a way to kind of force things into a map 5. And I think if they find a way to do that, there's absolutely no question they could find a way to take this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to be getting into that second match of the day here in just a few moments, once we make sure we've got all of our technical stuff situated here with Brody. He'll be good to go in just a few moments, and we will continue on with this matchup. So chat, while we're getting that all sorted, make sure you let us know your thoughts as well, which is a little bit earlier than we typically do it, but we have a seriously good discussion going on here between which of these teams is going to be bringing this game home. Who's going to be moving through to the challenge finals? Will it be S Cubed, who, like we just talked about, not only has seen a matchup against Hexad before, but then also had to face off against Exclusive? And
checking whether you can hear me now.
I can hear you.
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to check VMix.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Okay, I'm muted in mute, so I'm not distracting them too.
That is not an easy opponent to have to face off against. They do drop down to that lower bracket. Hexad, though, coming in warm. When it comes to the side of Hexad, we know more of these players here, Bobby, and that experience could be the one thing that completely changes
I'm back.
the way this works. He's back? We've got him back this time?
I don't know what was happening.
You know, I think that the real issue, what I'm getting out of this, is that Brody's the problem child. That's what I'm seeing.
I think I might be. I'm so sorry, guys. I went back. Yesterday, I left Bobby in like a control. It just, my entire power decided to die.
And I called you out for that at the beginning of the show here, Brody.
Brody's the schedule maker, and he had me casting all 3 games last night and then both games today, and he's ditched me twice already.
Listen, Bobby.
I'm really feeling like the odd man out right now.
We have you here. We have to make the best of you, all right? It's like you go on a holiday, you make sure you're going to see everything, all the different tourist traps. We've got you here for like a weekend or 2. Got to make sure we make the best of you, mate.
Fair enough.
All right, Brody, let's start talking. I want to hear your thoughts on these two squads. Bobby and I were just chatting about this next matchup. Give me your thoughts.
All right, this is going to be an interesting one. I don't know who is going to come out on top. I think SSS should do, in my opinion. Looking towards the squad last week, I think they surprised a lot of people. I think especially looking at Omari and Chuso especially, just solid players. These guys is a team that went kind of toe-to-toe with Exclusive in their matchup, right? I think for sure Exclusive were a cut above, but especially when you look at the control, SSS proved to be a roster I think that a lot of people underestimated coming into this season. So definitely I think got them in this matchup. They are really a roster I think a lot of people underestimated, and a roster to watch moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be a good way to close out the day, which I can't believe we're already through one of our first groups. And if you guys are wondering where the other 4 teams are in this region, we're going to be working on their bracket the second half of this challenge season. So if you're seeing names that you were, or you're missing names that you were hoping to watch, don't worry, they're going to be here just next time around as we get that veto process pulled up through here as well. Already, give me your thoughts.
I'm glad that crossfire control isn't the control, for sure. Not just because obviously for casting purposes, but glad that it's not the control because for Hexad's sake, you do not want to be playing crossfire against SSS. I know we just saw Hexad play pretty well on that map, but at least from my perspective, based on the very small sample size, is very clearly one of the strongest map mode combinations that could be available for SSS. So for that not to be in the map set, I think is pretty huge. Comparing it to the map set that we saw between SSS and Hexad back in the first group of play, I don't think there's any repeating maps here. I think everything is new. So this is very clearly Hexad wanting to come into this best of 5, wiping the slate clean, not playing any of the same maps. There's no need to do so.
All right. Well, go ahead. No, go ahead, Bobby.
No, I was going to say, I think the Arsenal's an interesting pick. I would assume probably for Hexad. I wasn't paying attention whenever that popped up, but this is a team that, once again, has been around for a longer time, and especially given that Arsenal was completely out of the hardpoint rotation for an entire year, it's one that more than likely they've got a little more experience on, and really the way the map is played hasn't changed all that much outside of the addition of those doors. So I would not be surprised to see a stronger opening hard point for Hexad, especially given the fact that I believe they dropped both hard points last time around.
All right. Yeah, I love that. I love that point. That's important to pay attention to. And I think we're going to see what they're able to do now with this entirely full new set of maps, because it's time to get into match number 2. Our teams should be ready to go. So let's see who our second team in the challenge finals is going to be.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I think it's a really good important point to bring up those hard points, right? You know, going back to the first series between these two teams, it was SSS who were able to take both of those hard points away. Although it has to be said, they were actually both extremely close. And the only reason SSS were able to do so was because of a huge early advantage pretty much both times around. So if Hexad can come out the gate swinging here in this first map, they should be perfectly fine. I wouldn't be surprised if Hexad are able to, at the very least, push SSS further in this series than they did last time around.
All right. Well, it's very rotationally dependent map, so we'll see who's on their A game heading into this one. But I'm very excited to cast SSS for the first time, because it's been a while since I feel like we've had any major new additions to the European talent pool, and always good to see that. It actually was Triple S's hardpoint map pick, so
yes,
was not expecting to see that at all, but we'll see what they're bringing to the table in this one. Is we're going to get nice and mixy here on P1.
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, SSS are new talent. This is something I was bringing up last week when they played Exclusive. Ultimately, even if they had lost that match versus Exclusive, which they did end up doing, they still proved themselves to be a pretty proficient roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do make it into playoffs, they're able to pull off an upset here or there, perhaps go a little bit higher than many would expect them to do so. I got to watch them in UEC before this entire season started, and they look like a pretty phenomenal squad. But off the start of this game, they're going to win those opening set of gunfights. And P1 is one of these hard points. As long as you've got a player watching every single entry point here, it's kind of almost more difficult to break in than you would at least initially imagine.
Yeah, and they've done a really good job of locking it down so far. They get the read on the spawns. It's now only one doorway and one vent that they've got to lock down. They do a great job of doing so, and that's an early 20-point lead and a hard point that usually is fairly easy to contest. They've just done such a good job of locking down those entryways that there's not really been much of a response from Hexad. They'll be able to pick up a little bit of scrap right here, but Secret's already been able to earn a pred. He's going to make sure to clear one more off before that final push, and he's actually going to look to hit a wrap toward their spawns right here to see if he can cut up a couple looking to rotate toward that top ladder side.
And already SSS here starting to pick up gunfights around the front as well. So if Secret can do some serious damage around the back line, this would be a very quick break for SSS. But they're not winning the gunfights. Gore and Tatel combined for 2. SSS still looking to contest through the front, but you're losing the vast majority of your players here. And yet still, you're somehow able to get those back spawns through. Tatel tried to hold on towards the hard point and will be shut down. So SSS here looking good for the back 30 seconds or so. Hexad desperately trying to get back in towards the hard point, but early investment now starting to be in play as well from SSS. Secret with a Purify, doing a good job at cutting these guys off at the front of the hard point. Gore attempting to contest around the back line will get shut out. And that might well be the last 15 seconds for SSS here. Last player inside will be Chuso. Has help from players coming off the spawn. Predator missile coming out from Secret inside that hard point as well. So actually a bit of an investment from SSS there early on. That's what, 1 operator, 1 streak. Not the worst thing in the world if you want to have that early advantage that got you the win last time around.
And if I had to guess, that Pred probably more for information than anything, especially with the number of different corners that you got to check on this rotation. It looks like it did its job. Triple S locking down P3 as well, and the equalizer's gonna pop. Maybe not a good time. Might not be able to get any progress back depending on how long he had those out. Fayaz for Hexad gonna go ahead and pop the war machine right here, and applying pressure from those long side spawns. They'll be able to get pushed up. Datel continues to make his way forward, but shut down off the equalizers. And once again, phenomenal response from Triple S. They've still got those strong side spawns. As long as they're able to keep doing that, should be able to continue to reinforce and at the bare minimum get contest time, and at best continue to build on this lead.
And Hexad just continue to find themselves in the blender right now. 14 seconds left. They're continuing to hit this hill. Kind of, at some point, you have to invoke sunk cost fallacy, right? How much do you actually want to put in towards this hard point before rotating away? And the answer is, I think they're focused so much on that old hard point, they've actually given up a little bit of space towards the rotation. They've won a couple of those gunfights, but not all of them crucially. Caruso's got in behind, but is about to get some horrific timing. Somehow still wins that fight against Gore. So now SSS are on the rotation and potential. Caruso finding more value on the flank. Will finally get shut down, but that's now opened the door for SSS towards the point.
Yep. So they're going to look to break through right here. Initial pressure's there, but Mirage holding the cross, and he's going to be able to find 2. So they're able to hold the line for the time being and starting to chip away at this lead. Tougher to make your way up from those lower side spawns, and especially with some of those streaks starting to go out. Hexad doing a phenomenal job of locking things down. Gore's gonna pop the death machine right here, but he's taken out. Pred drops for Hexad, but no value to be found, and it looks like Special Suicide Squad still gonna find a way to push on in and break through that front line. And kills now coming in for Caruso, who had a slow start, but is definitely starting to heat up here.
Yeah, Caruso, I believe, was the newest addition to the roster. Was not originally playing for this team, even back in Open Finals. So added to the squad as their sub. After that, is now playing in this one. And not a bad pick. Of course, we'll be replacing Mobille on the lineup for this matchup. So a bit of a surprise they actually got rid of Mobille. Regardless, Caruso here having a relatively good game thus far. Opening gunfights towards New for the most part. Hexad looking pretty good. O'Mary, that was a big shutdown. Equalizer's the most important operator of them all. Will be shut out, but Cuban towards the point here with the Sparrow trying to kind of blindly fire in towards the point. Will at the very least get one posthumous kill. And now SSS off the back of that can get the majority of time. Hexad will continue to hit this hill on the other side. Once again, couple of operators going to get shut down. Fayaz will find one with the war machine. Still potential to find more. No, kills being one here from SSS, but it is just one player towards the time. Cuban looking to go huge. Finds a couple of kills, and again, it's enough to keep some space for your team.
Caruso's gonna pop the grab vortex on one of those tightly packed hills. You'd think he should be able to find value off of that, but I don't think a whole lot of kills go through. Team holds the point regardless. And now 10 seconds of scrap time. Kind of a battle of who's going to be the last man standing, and it looks like it's going to be Omari as he picks up the rest right here. Hexad still fighting for, what, 2 seconds right there, and just not really great attention to detail. That's going to allow Triple S to already hit the early rotation in Secret. A huge 2-piece to open things up.
All right, SSS hit. Opportunity to get the same amount of time they did last time around. Aggression coming out from Chuso on the cut. Somebody will now need to pick that up as Chuso gets over aggressive. That's going to enable Hexad to filter on through the other side. That's exactly what's happened now. Datel tries to overextend, but does get shut down for it. Towards the point, Chuso trying to plug holes in the gameplay here. Hexad now, though, jumping on the point for some time. SSS trying to turn that in towards a contest, pushing forward through the smoke. Omeri, Caruso trying to take down all of these players, and Hexad trying to keep their head on a swivel, keeping an eye out for these SSS players. They're in the hard point for just about 20 seconds or so before being swiftly ejected once again. SSS's team play on these hard point breaks right now is immaculate. You can really tell this roster's been together for a long time.
Yeah, no question about it. And Chuso, I think, as an example of that, just a great job not getting overexcited, getting close to the hard point, but locking down that heady for as long as he can, waiting for his teammates to come reinforce. And it earns them probably the bulk of that last 30 seconds there on P1. So they've now got the top side of ladder set up. It's really all on to Cuban to try to lock things down, and he's not going to be able to maintain that position, but at least wards off the push initially and allows his teammates to reinforce on that lower side. Secret going to be able to find one before getting traded out, and very, very close to some of these operators getting charged. Omari going to hold the line in the equals. At the bare minimum, able to shut down that death machine. Damage has been done, and we remain contested as P2 continues to be one of the mix of your hard points.
Yeah, and I will say SSS are getting a better look at this hard point. Rogue Spawn comes through from Majin, so should be read by SSS. Not enough for the frag just yet, and now off the back of that, you're seeing kills starting to be open up around the front from Hexad as well. They tell with a crucial double. That's scrap for Hexad. At the end of the day, though, at this point in the game, scrap is not going to assist you. Look at where SSS are at. They're winning pretty much every single rotation here in this game. They've got 3 operators on site to hold on towards this hard point, and they did such a good job of it last time around. 100-point deficit or so between the two teams as it currently stands here. And now you're starting to look towards the rotation. Cuban is wiping every single player that tries to get close. SSS with a solid first look at this new kill.
I think that a lot of the teams look at the way that Elevate played Hardpoint last year and the fact that their philosophy was just fight for every second of scrap time. But you got to keep in mind, that was their game plan when Arsenal was not in the map pool. This plays very differently from most other COD mobile maps. You need to hit that rotation early because establishing the strong side spawns is so crucial, especially for P3 here on Arsenal. And Triple S has done it to perfection. Now up more than 100 points. Big value off of that War Machine. And they continue to reinforce from those close side spawns. Cuban having feed after feed. He and Chuso going absolutely crazy. They're at 40 plus kills apiece and still locking down any of those additional flankers. Not much chance of Hexad getting back into this one, barring a miracle.
No, you wouldn't think so at this point in the game. Just 21 seconds away from victory. RSSS, this is significantly more dominant than the hard points we saw between these two teams last time around. Then it was about 50 to 60 point games. This is something totally different. SSS have walked their way through this game. But Hexad, if they want to make a comeback, you got to start here. Every journey begins with a single step, and for Hexad, that is a 60-point hold on this next hard point. You can move the spawns relatively easy here. Majins is doing a really good job of that, recognizing that those side spawns, also starting to catch players, trying to make the push through middle of the map. Cuban has pushed through. Predator missile comes down from Majins as well. They're waiting for this long hit to come on the flank. Also got to be careful about players potentially trying to transition here, but for the most part, we are seeing pretty perfect hardpoint gameplay on this hill from Hexad.
I mean, they've not given up a single second, and SSS maybe starting to get a little bit nervous as they're really trying to force things on that mid-wrap. 20 seconds left, I think, already hitting the wrap toward P5. Once again, it's a map where rotations are important, but if you rotate too early, that opens up avenues for your opponents to start to go for a break before the new hardpoint has even popped, and it looks like that's going to provide the opportunity that Hexad are looking for. They've now got the setup here toward P5 as well. And if they can find back-to-back full 60s, things could get very, very scary for Triple S.
Yeah, you got to be really careful here. We were talking about this game being potentially untouchable for Triple S, so it's not out of the realms of possibility for them to chuckle it, but we move over towards rotation. Secret now wants to bring this game home, and what other way to do it than to burn through your opposition? But on the other side now, operators from Fayaz and Majins. The War Machine and the Gravity Vortex gun do enough for Hexad to break right back through, and SSS struggled last time around to get back in when they lost control of this hard point. Can the War Machine from Chuso do it?
War in the top side's going to be able to find 2, and that's the death machine, or rather the War Machine gone. Finally, they find some time right here as it was nearly a double full 60. But Cuban finds that last kill, in Caruso on the top side. Grav Vortex could not be in a better spot. It does get taken out by that trophy system right there, but the damage has been done. Now only 3 seconds needed. And right now, the onus onto Cuban to win these opening gunfights if they want to close things out quickly. Reinforcements arrive. And only a couple of gunfights away from closing this one out. Daytel, the last man standing, and he will drop as Triple S take the opening map.
Boy, that got sweaty. That got significantly sweatier than I thought it was going to towards the end of that game, Bobby. It looks so solid for SSS, especially through basically the first 60% of that game. Pretty much perfect hardpoint on rotation. SSS locked down almost every single one. But Hexad made him think about it as we got towards P4 on the second set of rotations. Hexad were like, hold on. All we got to do is just get a couple of full 60s, right? This is possible. And they certainly made us think about it with that full 60 on P4, followed by a great break and a pretty solid attempt at a hold towards P5. But that final rotation was the final fumble that led to the final nail on the coffin for Hexad in a hard point that was all SSS. What a phenomenal start, though, from SSS. I said it, I think, on the second or the third hard point into that game. The teamwork from SSS is something, even at the highest level of Europe, I actually haven't seen from European teams in a really, really long time. Like, again, these are new kids on the block. It's going to take a lot to beat the best of the best in Europe. We saw that versus exclusive. But as far as the fundamentals of team play are concerned, SSS have already got it down.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. The fact that they were able to play exclusive as close as they were on some of those maps, I think shows what they're capable of. And Cuban goes for 50 here on the Arsenal too. So only 2 kills off of that same mark as well. And looking at those numbers, it's a little bit surprising that the game was as close as it was. Gore had a rough map, -17 for him, and then -25 for Fayaz. But absolute beauty of a P4 out of this squad, and I think shows what they're capable of. It's really just a question of getting all 5 players on the same page at the same time.
Yeah, and, I was talking about, 2 players stepping up the other day, Chuso and Ameri. It feels like, again, it's a very small sample size, ultimately. It was just one map of Call of Duty. It's also worth saying that it's a totally different ball game to playing exclusive, where those players are very obviously the highest performing players on the roster. But it feels like now we're starting to look at the rest of the roster stepping up to the plate as well. Everyone is having a good game there. Everyone is doing their part for the victory. So phenomenal start of the series from SSS. They look like a really well put together team in Hardpoint. The fundamentals are there, and their record will also look pretty good coming off the back of this series if they do come out on top. Right now, though, we go into search and destroy on Tunisia, and this is the only blemish in their record against Hexad back in that first series, albeit it was a different battleground. It was Kurahana between the two teams, and it did have to go to overtime. Ultimately, SSS were not able to get it done. So currently, sans a search and destroy victory in this season of the Snapdragon Pro Series. SSS are looking for it here.
Yeah, and especially given the fact that this is a Hexad map pick, you would think that this is a must-win map for them. Cuban's going to be forced back right here. Maybe a perfectly cooked nade as it goes through, but only a hit marker to be found. Not going to be any kill right there, and getting crazy over on the B side as Daytel goes out on top right there. The trade comes through, but the damage has been done. Into a 2v2 we go, bomb in hand for Majin. And now probably trying to bait out a play from that lower middle side. It looks like both players looking to contest from the top side for Triple S. And actually opting to hit a wrap back toward B. Mirage 100% saw them. It's a question of, did they see him?
Well, the way SSS are playing, at least, it doesn't look like they've got the notification just yet. Now making that transition across. Hexad should be able to get this rock down before we see a response from SSS if they're quick about it. That's the immediate play call. Machines is going to get the bomb down. Mirage is going to throw the smoke, so SSS not going to get anything for it. Maybe just run straight out towards the site, though, and that's a brilliant play call for SSS to pull the trigger on that. All of a sudden, Mirage is going to be isolated, but Caruso trades out. And what a heads-up play call from SSS. Smoke down. Just, all right, cool. We're just going to run through that smoke, presume you're getting the bomb down, and hope for the best. A brilliant move there. I think it was Omeri that managed to pull that off.
Defend the objectives.
Yeah. Big time play out of them, and especially to do that to open up your opponent's search and destroy map pick, where it's the only place that they've beaten you. I think is a great way to get things started for Hexad. Cuban once again cooking the nade, but you saw the players pushing through. He continues to run forward anyway.
Hello?
Ends up paying for it. The defense here on B falling apart at the seams as 2 players now going to drop. It is a 2v2, but information has been given. especially with his tight position. You'd think Fayaz should be able to make something happen, but the barrel of the gun spotted around the corner. Crucial kill for Triple S, and Secret's able to get away with his life.
SSS have the numbers for the retake. Hexad have once again managed to get into sight. This time around, though, they're laying the rock there, putting the tent up and calling it home. Out towards sight, Mirage using the cover of the plant, but not shots are just not there whatsoever. Secret beams him all down to Gore now. 1 versus 3, 15 seconds on the clock, and the shots are left lacking on both sides. Hexad unable to pull it off despite the fact they got that bomb down.
Mirage, we will pretend that we did not see anything. But that bush is a very, very good bush to hide in. But the key factor is that you have to actually hit your shots whenever you get somebody to be caught off guard. So, unfortunately for him, doesn't go his way. 1 for 1, make it 2 for 1 off the start as Gore Snipe starting to heat up right here. I'm not sure he saw that last player still lurking under Winery. Secret's going to be able to find one onto Majin. Now the collapse over here onto the A side. Cuban's going to be able to find one, can't make it 2. And very quickly down to a 1v1 as Chuso is able to catch him off guard. And Triple S out to a hot start here in the Search and Destroy. 3-0 on their opponent's map pick.
Just solid on the defense so far. And it's worth saying, Hexad have got into these sites 3 for 3 now. On actually getting into the site itself, Hexad have done it every single time. But the response from SSS has been exemplary. And for me, it comes back to that team play that we've talked about so much from the Hardpoint. Same look once again off the offense here. Go with the opening snipe, but aggression from Secret and Ameri will put a stop to all of that. Hexad now trying to make it happen on a potential flanking play. Fayaz and Majins are finding value in it. And the last couple of players from Triple S now are split up. So need to see some individual heroics here. I think they are under the assumption they've cleared sight out. They don't know where Ameri is. Also not aware of the flanking play from Chuso, and he's going to pop off for 2. For Hexad, this offense has totally fallen apart.
This is certainly some of the most chaotic search and destroy that you will watch in competitive Call of Duty Mobile, but it makes for entertaining action at the very least. Bomb is down. Fayaz looking for an opening right here. Got a lot of angles to clear off before he's going to be able to pick it up. And Triple S content to sit back in spawn and wait for that audio cue. Question is Fayaz going to actually check this corner? And he is not. So Amari plays that to perfection. And Triple S continue their dominance. And the more out of hand this map gets, you got to think the more nervous Hexad start to get. Really needed to be an S&D sided series for them to have a chance at taking it, and this has not looked convincing in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I'll say what I always say. Tunisia is, technically speaking, a defensively sided map, right? So this is part of the course. That is not, though. Chuso sniping off the rip to take Mirage out of the round. You've now got a little bit of assistance from your friends as well. You've spotted Fayaz doing what Fayaz does. You know that Hexad are going to get aggressive here. They've done it every single time they've gotten onto the site. Can you play around it, though? Cuban most certainly wants to. Shots not tracking on towards Daytel, but your teammates are looking pretty good for these trades. Coming down now to just 1 remaining player, and not even that. That bomb might have been down quick, but I think SSS were in the site even quicker.
Some bad manners coming out right there. Obviously, it's a defensive-sided map, but to be doing it in this dominant of a fashion, I don't think bodes well for Hexad, especially getting into these. Like, if you can't take a single round, that just puts so much more pressure on, because you make one mistake and the series is over. And even if you execute best case scenario as you forcing overtime, you still got to find a way to win on the opposite side. SSS finds the opening kill once again. I don't know if they got any info off of that nade over the top, but Chuso still seems to have some type of an idea, and he's going to be able to execute off of that information. Daytel drops, and once again, SSS in the driver's seat this round.
And the wild thing about this, right, is that Chuso is basically doing this all on his lonesome. He's got help from his teammates, mind you, but he is solely guarding this B site. Like, their tournament lives depend on it, and, well, technically speaking, on the whole, it does. But still, SSS, I don't think they've got much to worry about the way this Search and Destroy has gone thus far. Hexad still seem pretty determined to take the site control. Gore gives way too much of himself away for free there. Chuso will take that all day long. Mirage now trying to salvage something in this round. Nice shots with the Odin on towards the first, but traded elsewhere. Raj, still a lot of work to do here. You've got to take down every single player and get the ace, and he is being toyed with right now by Secret, who will finally end the suffering. SSS, a flawless defensive round set there, and now they've just got to win one, Bobby, and it's all done.
I mean, I really thought that this was... I thought that at bare minimum that Hexad could make it a competitive series via the search and destroy. I don't know what is going on right now, but they have looked completely lost on offense, and now very heavily have to bank on the defense, and they still can't get a first blood. Finally, a couple kills go through, and they find a man advantage for maybe the first time in this one, but it continues to just turn into a bloodbath as things are equalized into a 2v2, all down to Caruso to see if they can finish out the LG.
That's something I haven't heard for a really long time. Oh boy. Hexad. This round, it should be said, would be done had Fayaz actually found a couple of kills. You could see it on the minimap. He was waiting in the corner for both players from SSS, including Caruso, to walk past and still couldn't deliver on the second kill. This should be done, though. Gore is watching this like a hawk. All you got to do is not choke the shot, and Gore chokes it! Caruso wants to get towards the side, but Gore takes a second chance, and he won't miss this time. Hexad are finally on the board.
Ooh. I mean, he literally walked around the corner, served it up on a silver platter, and maybe that round could be the change in direction that Hexad are looking for, is to get a little bit of confidence right there, although may have been closer than need be. And this time, Triple S going to get aggressive toward B, but it seems like Hexad going to read it right here onto Fayaz to find this opening engagement, but he's going to be able to get through, somehow taking down Triple S, finds two. And just like that, the damage has been done. Daytel getting schmooved on. Oh my gosh, finds the kill. Closer than need be into a 3v3.
I think SSS are just going to plant this bomb. They're certainly trying for it. Play number 4 right now is being oddly still. Caruso just waiting at the moment, maybe for a push through the middle cut, but Cuban's now gone in that direction now. Starting to overwhelm these players at the back of the site. Hexad trying to stop this one. Nice kills coming through. All of a sudden flips into a 1 versus 1. Caruso not able to deliver it. Gore will hold strong at the back of the site, as will Hexad. And despite the early presence, SSS unable to bully their way into a 7-1 victory. Hexad will continue.
The objective. They have the bomb.
And once again, it's not decisive rounds, but any round that you can get at this point, you got to think builds your moment or your confidence to a certain degree. Majin pushes up initially, but with the nades connecting, you know they've got that information. You don't want to overextend. Ayaz catches one off guard. Majin finds another, and once again, Triple S not finding a whole lot of success here on the offensive side. 3 players all together and pretty much wide open on B. Hexad feel very confident in their ability on a retake right here, apparently, because they've got to get the bomb down.
Hey, look, listen. I think the logic here might be, hey, if we're going to play together, we should be able to trade things out and win. And SSS have shown that they are not the most aggressive players in the world in terms of actually planting the bomb. They did this last round as well, right? Despite not having full clearance of the back of the site, they didn't get the rock down. They chose to go for the kills instead. That's the gamble for Hexad here. Albeit, I mean, I totally agree with you. I don't think it's the right gamble to take. You should probably have somebody keeping an eye on that back site still. Utility going over the top. It's going to land short. SSS now. Still not planting the bomb. Guys, come on, please.
What are they waiting on? I legitimately, like, they don't have a single reason to believe that there's anybody remotely close, and they continue to fake the bomb plants. They're playing mind games with themselves at this point. They opt to get the bomb down right here, and now gonna look to push out for a bit of map control to see if they can hold off this retake. Omari's got to find 2 right here if they want to have a chance in this one. He doesn't find anything. Majin takes 2 for himself. All on to Chuso. 1v5. Got to find the opener. Unfortunately for him, that's going to be a hit marker, which will likely mark the end of the round right here. Finds 1 kill, but the trade is instantaneous. And now 3 rounds in a row for Hexad. Seemed like it was over, but they are quickly creeping their way back into this one.
Yeah, I think that might be one of those classical team completely outthinks themselves. SSS, all you got to do is get the bomb down. You do not need to be taken so long in that round. I think they'll know that as well. They'll probably have a good chuckle watching this VOD back afterwards. maybe not so much if Hexad do make the potentially inevitable comeback. Hexad on the defense, same look once again, not committing towards B. Brilliant opening blood through the middle of the map for Chuso. And the fact that Majins now is the player on B, you don't have Gore towards the back of the site like you have had in rounds past, means that if SSS do choose to get that bomb towards B, they'll be perfectly fine. But Crusoe goes down here on the cut. That's now bombed down. Potential second player to fall as well is Omeri, and this round on the offense is starting to fall apart for SSS.
Interesting that they force back toward A because there's no defensive presence on B, especially after that pick across mid. And they're still dead set on trying to force this through. Looks like finally going to wrap back and at least throw a look toward that A side rather toward the B side. And Chuso finds one onto Gore. So that brings us into a 3v3. And one player going to hit the wrap toward mid. Fayaz finds a big kill onto Secret right there. That gives them the man advantage once again. And now with the bomb down right there, things have gone terribly wrong for Triple S.
I have so many questions for Triple S right now. First of all, why are you letting the bomb carrier be the entry player on any potential wrap? There is no reason for that to be happening. And secondly, when you've spotted out Gore underneath the A site, you know that Gore has been the guardian of the back of B. Why are you not recognizing that B is clear? Like, that has to be the play call. Chuso will go down and that'll be the round, but that's two huge errors from SSS there. You know that Gore has been the person at the back of B site over and over again. At worst, they've got somebody in the mid cart. They don't have anybody towards the back of B. That's not how Hexad play. SSS failing to recognize what's being thrown towards them at the moment. This is 4 rounds on the bounce here for Hexad. And I'm starting to get a little bit tingly at the moment, mate. Hexad here are making even me feel nervous.
Yeah, it feels like Triple S are kind of their own biggest enemies so far in this one, at least on the offensive side. Just a lot of opportunities for them to capitalize. They've found that man advantage. They've had wide open bomb sites and haven't executed. And once again, you give away that opening life. Chuso's going to overextend right there. And, you know, Majin's here to be dealt with. Gore with a sniper in that backside as well. And continuing to give away lives. Triple S looking incredibly shaky here on the offense, and now second guessing this play for good reason, given how much difficulty they've had getting in. Secret's going to be able to find one. The question is, can he get away with his life?
You need to get out. Just go. You have a free A site. Surely Omeri's made the call. A is clear. Nobody is there. Go. Stop trying to get B. What are we doing? SSS, please stop throwing. 2 versus 3. This is still possible. I want to believe. Secret down for the count. Not too sure anymore. Cuban's got to pull off some quick scopes, and unfortunately, he's not made his way to phase 5. Bobby, please. I need help. I can't. I don't understand. They had a player rotate through the A site. The comm was made. It's clear. Rotate. Stop hitting B. There's 3 players on the site. Please.
I mean, at this point, I kind of want them to just throw all their util and throw a few smokes down and try to bull rush it, because when they've tried to play it tactically, it has backfired every single time. They're getting picked apart trying to make these slow pushes. And it looks like 3 players going to peek the top side of Winery. They do find trades right there. Back and forth we go, and this time it is going to be an aggressive A push pistol out, but Secret comes out on top. Finally, that man advantage with the bomb on site for Triple S. And now on to Fayaz in a 1v3. Bomb goes down right here. He's going to make that wrap toward top Winery, but he's got to go big off the opening engagement.
SSS will be watching. Got to get some good timing here. Well, apparently they won't be watching. Fires gets a good look here. Could have well have stolen away one of those kills, but it's not to be. Chuso peeks it. And SSS finally, and I really do mean finally, closed out that search and destroy, because it definitely should have happened about 4 or 5 rounds ago.
Yeah, there's just no reason for it to be as close as it was. And once again, at some point, maybe the pressure gets to you, especially as a newer team, and you become your own worst enemy. But they closed that one out, which at the end of the day is what they were looking for. So now they get an opportunity to head into control, where they looked very, very strong, arguably their most dominant mode last time around. But maybe not heading in as confidently as you could be with the way that things were going in the first half and how quickly you would think they should have been able to close that out.
All I'm saying is I'm going to have a very lengthy conversation with Omeri after this and ask him. I need to know like the exact thought process for about 5 rounds straight there, because SSS, oh goodness me. I mean, like, I'll say this much. The first 6 rounds were perfect, pretty much, right? Like, Hexad made a couple of errors, mind you, so they definitely gave away some freebies, but SSS took it by the horns, as it were, and managed to get those first 6 rounds. They earned them. But whatever was going on the offense there for SSS, it wasn't doing much for us here on the casted desk. We can take a look at the final stat lines there at the end of the game. The usual suspects, as it were, for SSS performing. Chuso with 14 kills on the snipe. For Hexad, albeit he's not the top fragger, probably one of the biggest reasons why they are able to be as deep into that search and destroy as they are is probably Gore. With that snipe at the back of B, for the most part, Gore was doing a lot on the early defensive rounds for Hexad.
Yeah, no question about it. If you're Fayaz Mirage, you got to put that one out of your mind and just kind of reset here heading into map number 3. Last thing you want to do is get eliminated in 3-0 fashion, especially up against a team that you were fairly competitive with last time around. Obviously, less than ideal that you lose the search and destroy, which was the one mode that you were able to capitalize on in the last one. But you know, you've got the talent, the experience. It's just really got to be about the mental reset heading into this one, and you're going to a raid map that you know you've got that experience on as well.
Yeah, and this is the big thing for me, right? I know that Raid is going to be a map where these guys have experience ultimately, so I'm not too pressed about it, but it isn't crossfire control. Now, we go back to that crossfire control, both against Hexad and I think more crucially against Exclusive last week. And SSS, they look so solid in control. Just their team play again, it's something that made them really strong in map number 1. They've got a lot of trust in each other to not just push things at the same time, but also send splinter players off potential flanking plays. Raid offers a lot of that, right? Obviously, Raid is the classic quintessential Call of Duty map design. There's a ton of different lanes that you can kind of get behind the opposition team with, and I expect SSS to exploit that here. They are a formidable control team from the small sample size that we've seen thus far, and they should be able to win this map. The Hexad have thrown some curveballs in this series, late into the hard point, of course, late into the search and destroy, so don't be surprised them to put up a fight.
All right, it's getting nice and spicy toward the B side to get things started right here. Early time for Hexad is looks like one tick of progress already going to be locked in, and Majin absolute beams to secure the kill right there and to secure some more objective time. Cuban doing his best to find clearance over toward this B side. It looks like they will be able to get rid of that one tick of progress, but Daytel is there for the trades. Pretty even off the start of this one. 23 lives, B23. And Hexad continue to force it toward B. No real pressure over toward the A side, but it continues to work. The gunfights going their way.
Triple stack on towards a point here for Hexad. SSS flanking plays potentially coming through here. This is what I was talking about. Looking at player number 5. Cuban will get cut short. Caruso, I don't think is going to get to the point in time. Secret up top, not going to do anything. And this is a bit of unusual, I think, defensive strat here from SSS. So Murray will come through for a couple, make it 3 kills off the back of it. But usually you do not see this kind of investment from a defensive team. Generally speaking, they know that there's going to be a long path here for the offensive side once they've captured the A zone or the B zone to make it towards B. Instead, SSS send players towards the point. They get a 3-piece and then a 2-piece that you guys just saw. That's going to slow Hexad up even more here, and they've still got life advantage. So I would say the way that SSS played that, actually, it was unconventional, but it was actually ultimately the right call. SSS now have to deal with the Hexad players, though, because a few have got through.
Yep, big kill right there to avoid that presence toward top laundry, but trades are found. Daytel trying to find some kitchen control, not going to be there. 2 life differential between these 2 squads, but starting to build a little bit as Triple S. Really solid setup here on the defensive side, not allowing any inroads from top laundry. Omari's going to get shut down as Hexad find 3 in a row right there. And with that, Chuso's kind of left guessing as to what route they're going to take to make their way onto the objective, especially with that kitchen control. This could be the opening that Hexad have been looking for.
Yeah, SSS going to have to throw themselves towards the point here. Gore and Fayaz will take a couple of players down. Sparrow coming out from Cuban. It doesn't do anything. It's a shutdown. It's a failed attempt to try and salvage this round. Hexad now in a 5 versus 2 as Daytel takes Chuso off the board. All down to Caruso and Omari, just the former of those 2 players now. It's a 1 versus 5. Slide out towards a point. Finds the first. Plays his life. Now trying to get away. Nobody on the point just yet, so not feeling the heat for this moment. Hexad are playing this in a measured way. They want to try and find the frag. They got to make sure they don't fumble. Here comes the stoppage of the clock. 3 players jumping on towards a point. Crusoe picks one of them off. No immediate trade once again. Now able to line up a second kill, but the shot's not perfect. Magians will take him down. And that is a great round from Hexad, really putting the heat on towards SSS early.
Were there 4 operators charged for Hexad? Did they use an operator right there?
I don't think so.
I'm not 100% positive. I could have sworn there were 4. It could be a miscall out of me. Gore's got his death machine out early on, and that thing can absolutely shred. So he's going to be able to find 1. Mirage finds another 2. Or rather, Mirage and Majin go big. And we see all the operators coming out. War Machine, Death Machine, Ground Vortex. They want the full-on spawn trap. They've got a 4-life lead early in this one and force everybody over toward the B side. But honestly, Triple S do a good job of playing away from those operators and kind of mitigating the damage they were able to do. Is not really a whole lot to worry about for them. And I would say they've done a good job of taking that util off the table. Grab Vortex does get taken down, but we'll likely see that charge back after getting taken down off of a nade.
Yeah, that's the thing with Spawn Trap on raid control, right? You can very often just sort of run past it and just go straight towards the point. That's what SSS do, as you said. We did see an investment in the Gravity Vortex gun out from Caruso, but it doesn't result in all that much control at all. So, for the most part here, SSS have to hit the reset. A couple of operators now starting to come out. Omeri trying to keep the players off the spawn at bay with the equalizers, but will get shut down by machines. So for Chuso now with the War Machine towards the point, you have to find some serious value with this thing if you want to make sure that B is captured and you want to make sure that you get something out of your operators. Chuso will finally run out of bullets. And here's the flip side of that coin here for Hexad on the defense. Unlike what SSS did last time around, they are just going to wait for SSS to hit them on the flank.
Yep. They're going to be forced back right here, trying to get that top laundry control. Chuso plays his life nearly to perfection. Fayaz actually snuck through to their spawn right here, and they're going to have to deal with him sooner than later. Otherwise, he could cause issues for them. And one player actually just slips all the way up driveway, doesn't even bother to look for him. And his absence from the play could potentially be detrimental right here. Is pretty much the entirety of the squad has made their way forward for Triple S. Omari's going to find one, as does Caruso. And now with the kills coming through, that life lead starts to build. Fayaz remains completely out of the play, and they've now made their way toward top laundry.
Yeah, this is the thing. If you're going to set up a spawn trap, you have to have the kills to do so. You can't do the spawn trap before you get players in said spawn trap. Now that player's going to have to come all the way back here. SSS have players pulled forward. Cuban going to clear out kitchen. Now looking for some more. Talk about operators on each side. Cuban has his ready to go. The Sparrow could be utilized. Daytel and Mirage also ready to go for Hexad. And they might need one here, honestly. They bring this down to a 5 versus 6. SSS trying to make the flanking plays happen through the elbow cut, though. Daytel catches Secret and Cuban off guard. And now in a 4 versus 4. Not too sure you need those operators now.
We got a high-stakes TDM right here. 3v3 for the round. No progress on A. It's all going to come down to the kills or the clock. And now it's a 1v2 for Omari. Daytel, Gore left to be dealt with. The gunfight's there, and he's able to go prone. Daytel doesn't have an angle to work with, and if he gets this regen off, this is 100% a winnable gunfight, but he's got to find a way to stop the clock right here. And right now, the pressure onto Daytel to read this. He's going to hit the wrap toward mid-steps, and I don't think Omari has any clue where he is. 1 second, you can't leave the objective. It's all about the read right here, and he spots him out. Daytel makes the play, and now Hexad go up 2-0 in the map.
That is incredibly smart from Daytel. You win 2 gunfights towards the point. And also the earlier elbow play as well, right? You know, catching a couple of players off guard and getting back towards the point to try and help out your team. It was a very easy out there, too, to use your operator in that situation. You had one ready to go. Ops not to do so. Decides to clear around through open steps, and that is an immediate win for Hexad in the 1 versus 1. Huge clutch up. That now gives Hexad the 2-0 advantage in this one. How about this for a play off the rip too? Hexad gambling that SSS would force send it towards B. Instead, now opting to go towards A off the rip here. Stack already starting to come through. Operators already burned here from SSS off the start of this round. You've got 3 ready to go. This is about as perfect as you could possibly ask for Hexad.
Yeah, no question. Complete control toward that A side, and nobody in kitchen has been able to do a single thing about it. Secret has no idea that Mirage is sitting in the corner right there, so they get A locked in and do it with ease. 3 lives up they've got 4 operators charged and ready to go. I would not be surprised to just see a full send over here toward B, full invest those operators and try to lock in that win as quickly as possible. We've not seen any of them popped yet, but they've got the positioning to still find the kills. Triple S, Caruso, going to be able to find one with the grab vortex, but he's immediately taken out.
Yeah, you really needed more of that gravity vortex gun. I know that Raid is a very open map, so sometimes the gravity vortex gun can feel a little bit more useless than it might on other maps where things are significantly smaller. But still, you need to find some value because you look at the operators on site for Hexad here. They've got 4 that they could utilize to storm their way towards a point. And Mary thinks, yeah, as soon as I get these equalizers, they are coming out to play. Let's see how many players American tear through. No, gets burned by Daytel. That's yet another operator where they find 1 frag and no more than that. And albeit SSS are finding the kills, again, you have to keep an eye on the fact that Hexad have operators ready to go here. If they choose to use even 3 of them at the same time, SSS might be in trouble.
I'm surprised we've not seen a single one yet. It feels like they're kind of overplaying the situation right now and not making the most of what they've got. Secret's going to be able to force his way back towards spawn. And once again, Hexad has not made any inroads since getting that objective captured, have not secured any map control, and can't really even seem to lock down Kitchen as Caruso's going to win a big gunfight. Still 1 player in Mirage toward the backside, locking down that rock area. But now only 50 seconds. You've still got those 4 operators charged, and you're giving more and more time for those Triple S operators to do the same. Hexad now putting themselves in a rough spot as they fail to close things out early.
9v7. Hexad still have players around the point, though. So they could still do this. Chuso needs to try play Ring Around the Rosie, play his life, because he doesn't have much help. Help is on the other side of the map here. Through the mid-cut, Caruso needs to find some value. Not going to get it done. Gore still alive with the death machine. We're starting to see these operators come into play now. Gore not going to find anything, though. It's a blue kill feed for SSS. First tick now through from Hexad. Couple of players stacking on towards the point. Chuso now going to bring the War Machine into play. Still alive as well. Mirage on the other side here with the claw. It's a 2 versus 3 now, just down to a 1 versus 3. It's Mirage with the claw. He runs out of bullets, runs out of time, goes for the melee against Mary. 1 versus 2 now. 1 versus 1. 15 seconds on the clock. Hunter killer drone in the air. That's going to track Cuban down. He has to try and fly away. Get inside the Hunter killer drone. Not going to connect. Back to the reset here. 1 versus 1. Shots out on towards Cuban. Playing his life on the other side. Clock stopped down to Mirage on towards the point. Cuban has to wait to hit the reset. He's not going to be able to. Mirage draws him out to the open and pulls off the 1 versus 3 to keep this series alive.
I can't believe he won that. Especially given like so many wasted opportunities for that to be the way that Hexad find a way to take that closing round. Just an emotional roller coaster right there. And they do it with 3 operators sitting in their pockets as well. The win to win at the end of the day. Huge plays out of him. And now you keep your hopes alive in this series and in this challenge season. Getting ready to head back into the Hardpoint. You got to think they've got to have some semblance of momentum coming out of that one. You're going into your own Hardpoint map pick, and you win a fairly decisive control map with definitely a significant number of mistakes made along the way as well. They looked much, much different that time around.
Man, that was a really solid control from Hexad. There were a couple of moments there, squeaky bum time. Worth saying that the last couple of rounds did come down to a 1 versus 1, but this 1 versus 3 is clean from Mirage. Honestly, I love the way that Kiva was just kind of running away as fast as humanly possible as soon as that Hunter killer drone went into the air. He was like, yeah, I'm not having that. I'm backing out as soon as humanly possible. Didn't matter in the end. Still tagged up, and that is a 1 versus 3 from Mirage to close things out. I believe didn't play for Hexad last week as well, so coming into the roster. Good solid fill-in for Hexad here. Has made this comeback possible now. A 3-0 on the control as well is nothing to scoff at, considering they've had a real struggle this series thus far. Having a solid performance on control raid is everything they could have possibly wanted and more, because now they have to pull momentum forward here to get back into this series. They've got a hard point coming up. The first hard point in this best of 5 was significantly more dominant for SSS than it was the last 2 times around they faced Hexad on hard point. So Hexad really have to step it up a notch here.
Yeah, and the issue for Triple S has been, are they going to be able to close out the hard points once they get those opening leads? Because we've seen time and time again, they get off to a strong start, but allow their opponents back in. And especially now that Hexad have been able to build a little bit of momentum. That's the last thing that you want, is to give them an open door that they could potentially punch through and find a way to a map 5, because once you get there, anything's possible. We saw them have their fair share of struggles in the search and destroy, but once they built some momentum, they're a force to be reckoned with. So we head into the Hacienda. And right now, if you're Triple S, I think you would like to close things out as quickly as possible, because you do not want to leave a door open. You've already done so in giving up that control. Last thing you want to do is allow the opposition to build even more momentum.
All right, well, that was a solid control from Hexad. Now they've got to swing it into a solid hard point here on Hacienda. You were talking about Arsenal being a map that punishes you if you don't rotate properly. Hacienda, I would argue, is perhaps even more so a map like that. That's why Hacienda is so beloved. It really does force you to rotate. Hard points do send you from one side of the map to the other. So your fundamentals have to be on point here. And going across the last 3 hard points between these two teams, SSS have looked better in that category. Off the start of this game, SSS is going to outslay Hexad by quite a large margin. Really, players starting to heat up off the start of this. Secret, I believe, now on 4 in a row. Finally will get shut down, but that's a solid amount of time to pick up on P1 if you're SSS.
And it's 3 goose eggs for Hexad, or at least it was up until just a second ago. Very, very slow off the start, which is not surprising given the way that they started the last hard point as well. Seemed like it maybe takes them a little bit more time to get things going, but also know what they're capable of once they're locked in, and they are going to be able to find some scrap time. Big gunfight right here for Daytel and Cuban. Cuban on 4 right here, but not going to be able to extend the streak. Daytel gets the kill. They need to secure those rock side spawns. The pressure going to be on to Majin to find clearance onto those flanking players.
SSS all pushing and charging through the front here. Chuso taking off their spree. Fayaz out towards the front. Big double here. That smoke's going to allow Secret through, though. How much more damage can he do? Absolutely nothing. Caruso potentially will line a couple of players up. Mirage right in front of him. The coverage of the smoke will keep him alive for just a little bit longer, but Cuban is the one to finish things off. And now all of a sudden, the flip of the script here. As we get towards P2, SSS are the ones in control. Hexad having to fly their way up towards the driveway. The coverage of the smoke is all that's keeping them even close towards this time. And Chuso is finding a hell of a value out of the war machine as well. That's 4 kills for him early on. A hell of a start. 11 frags to his name. And Hexad are spinning their wheels here. They're trying to get in, but they're facing down the war machine previously. Now the Sparrow from Cuban, who finds 3. They're not getting into this time.
And with the way that kill differential has spun out of control early on, that's meant a lot of early earned operators for this SSS squad. And they have used them so well to lock in that early lead. Now up 50 points. Cuban baits out the play from Fayaz, and another huge kill. Chuso gets the kills and the info as the pred drops. And already Cuban has made his way to at least contest initially here on P3. They are going to want to flip those spawns if at all possible, but Chuso from the top side is going to be able to find one, and now looking to find a play through mid.
There's surely no way you lose this early rotation. This can't keep on happening every single hard point between these two teams. Hexad find themselves in a hole. Fayaz, I think, actually did some team damage there. And Emery now pushing forward with the equalizer. Surely not number 4. Unfortunately, Mirage slides under him, takes him out of the FOV, gets cameraed a little bit. So that's going to give Hexad a look towards this hard point. But I was saying that this hard point early on, just like every other hard point between these two teams, has been all SSS out of the gates. Hexad have to try and take this scrap time if they can. Investment from Caruso will take down Gort. Heal's now starting to come through. Fires all of a sudden finds himself all alone inside the scrap time, and SSS look to try and grab it away. Hexad being offered nothing in this game so far. If they lose this rotation as well, it might well be called pretty early on.
And Hexad, they don't even necessarily get cleared off the point, but Triple S did such a good job of keeping that contested nearly the entire duration of the hard point. There was absolutely no value found for Hexad, as I believe it was pretty much a tie of a hard point coming out of it. And it looks like Triple S now going to win the opening engagements toward P4. Majin needs to go big with that grab vortex. He's 1 HP, trying to get away with his life. Not a whole lot of value to be found. Equalizer shut down in the hands of Daytel, and at every turn they are getting wiped off the table, as is their util. Chuso pulls out the war machine. He's going to find 2 before getting taken down, and the reinforcements continue to be better and stronger for Triple S. Hexad are left scrambling this time, looking to push through mid.
Yeah, we finally see something different here for Hexad. You keep on pushing through guard inside and expecting the same results. That hasn't happened. Finally a push through the middle of the map here. 2 versus 1, they overwhelm, but Chuso's right there as the backstop for SSS. Potentially more damage being done for the middle of the map here as well. Mirage will at the very least close that hard point out with 2, and they might be able to get a consolation, and I will put consolation in bold and italics as well. 5 seconds of time, if that. Hexad decimated in this game so far. Every single rotation that we've seen between these two squads has been SSS all the way throughout. Almost every single operator from SSS as well. I think bar like 1 gravity vortex gun usage from Caruso, and let's be honest, it can be difficult at times to find some value from that kill, from that operator, excuse me. It's been perfect. SSS has been perfect in pretty much every single category of gameplay here. They've really put that control behind them. And now we move towards P1, where last time around they got a massive chunk of time where arguably they shouldn't.
With the way that this one is played, you would never have guessed that this is a Hexad map pick. They have just looked so lost at every turn, and really just struggling to find value off the hard point time that they seemingly are in position to find. Just like you said, Triple S, their teamwork is on another level from what we've seen out of Europe for so much of the region's competitive life. So Hexad find a little bit of scrap time right here, but once again, the pressure on this money hill, and Daytel this time wins that opening engagement, so maybe an opportunity as the reinforcements arrive. It doesn't matter, Secret finds 2 right there, and even with that early presence for Hexad, Triple S still find a way to break through before the hard point is even popped.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit of deja vu here, because last time around they struggled down to the operators already. We're seeing investment coming out from SSS. Chuso firing down range through the smoke. Hexad don't know where to go to dodge the pellets. They can't do anything. Finally, Chuso gets taken out of the play, but Cuban following up the Sparrow. Not quite as effective this time around, not quite the 4-piece and the 3-piece that we saw, so that's going to enable Hexad to find their way through, but Chuso, O'Mary finding some value. Chuso gets shut down. Nice double with a nade from Gore. It does weaken the hold from SSS towards the kill, but it doesn't do enough to break it just yet. 20 seconds still left to fight for. Players coming in from all sorts of angles. O'Mary clears out 3 of them. 1 more player through the front. Chuso and Secret doing all sorts of damage here. And SSS just continue to hold perfectly. Again, it is the team play. They are constantly communicating with each other where these players are coming from and constantly dealing with the threats. Hexad look totally lost.
Obviously, it's at a very different level, but the way that this Triple S team plays Hardpoint reminds me to a degree of Elevate, just constantly reinforcing the Hardpoint. Perfect reads on the spawns, where you're forcing your players, the positioning, the reinforcements, everything so clean, and the value on those operators just cannot be understated how big of an impact that has. And once again, they're at least in position to find contest time right here. If not, break on through. Cuban's going to be there, and the operators come out once again. This time, not quite as much value to be found, but Chuso, War Machine, going to be able to find 1. And once again, Hexad just scrambling to find any scrap that they can at any given point.
And at this point, I mean, you literally see the way that they're playing, right? They're playing, waiting, scared at this point in time. Hexad try to contest and take time away from SSS. Nice little melee up top towards platform. It's going to give them a little bit of room to work with, but SSS on their way. Once again, O'Mary, good job to clear out Tin. Chuso and Secret through the middle of the map as well. That's scrap time for SSS here. Might be a little late contest coming through from Magians, but ultimately not going to matter. We have been here before. 100-point deficit with SSS knocking at the door of a 200-point deficit. Last time around, on map number 1, Hexad were able to pull together a hill that was a full 60. If they can do that again here, we'll start talking about them potentially being in the game once more. 3 kills come through for Hexad, though. Secret now will find 2, but that's going to be Hexad winning the opening engagements.
Yeah, and these are big-time kills. We saw them start to look like they were turning things around last time with a similar scoreline, and it started with a full 60. So they're looking to find that right here, but not going to be quite as easy on this hard point. Fortunately, Gore stays alive with that death machine in hand, as does Fayaz with his war machine. So the value has been found, and it's a little bit of deja vu, and this time it's happening without as big of a lead for Triple S. They were at 229 last time around. This time only at 195. Giving away a full 60 at this point could be much more deadly and a lot tougher to bounce back from, as it has been a near perfect hard point for Hexad.
Yeah, and no complaints from me. As you said, a near perfect hardpoint from Hexad. They get like 50 to 55 seconds off that kill. It has to be said, and again, I'm being clear, this is not a complaint. They used everything to make sure that they happened. They used 3 operators consecutively. It will leave them high and dry going into towards the next one, in which SSS have 3 in the bank ready to be utilized. They've been solid on P1 time in the past. Majin's trying to play his life through the smoke. Help from Gore and Fayaz up top as well. Majin's now need to convert for a couple of kills. Not going to find the second, but Daytel is good for the trade. Hexad now soaking up time once again. Chuso now trying to do some damage to the players inside, but not going to get it done. Hexad are winning these trades, and all of a sudden we're looking at something totally different here in terms of team play. Hexad are now the ones that are trading out each other in a way that SSS all of a sudden aren't.
And if I had to guess, Triple S are trying to save those operators for a big P2 hold. But in doing so, you're allowing Hexad to continually cycle their operators, find more value, and maybe a little bit of an overplay out of them right here. Kind of feel the need to go big on P2, and you see Mirage popping the claw right there. He's going to be able to find 1. 2 more operators already charged. Chuso on the other side, he's got 58, make it 59 kills. Already on a near 60 bomb, and still a lot of Call of Duty Mobile left to be played in this one. Secret gonna get shut down off of his purifier, and Hexad continue to hold the line.
Yep, but it's going to be SSS finding 3 kills here. They could, technically speaking, still close things out. Fire's going to bring that Predator missile down. Will connect on towards Cuban. Through the side stairs. Daytel denied entry towards a hard point. Chuso doubling up. Gore will find double of his own. O'Mary isolated towards the time. It's Hexad who are now in. SSS now starting to spin the wheels a little bit as they look to trade their way in towards the hard point. But if you're Hexad, you're content with these trades. You're winning the hard point control. Cuban with the double. 1 more player to deal with in the side. That's Fayaz, and O'Mary invests the equalizers to get it done. You can't finish things here regardless, but this is a big 15 to 20 seconds if you're SSS. Mirage takes himself out of the play. Gore comes through with a death machine. They're looking for this time, and if you're SSS now, just run to the rotation. You do not need that last 10 seconds.
And Mirage gets the player on the 1 going in from well, but he's going to get shut down by the nade. Early rotation is here for Hexad, and Triple S have just used all of their operators. Gore's still on a death machine. Majin's got his operator charged and ready to go, and Hexad once again winning the rotation. Majin does get shut down off that Grand Vortex. Don't know if he got a shot off, so he might get some charge back, but all the pressure onto Chuso to hold right here, and Hexad have those strong side spawns looking a lot stronger on the hold initially than the first time around.
It's worth saying spawns on this hill can be kind of wonky, and you're already seeing those splits coming through here. Hexad, a couple of players getting close spawns. Gore will win the innate engagement. Good trade coming through. Seacat trying to do a flanking play here. Catch a couple of players off guard. Gore with the trade will be pretty good here for the contest. SSS just needs 16 seconds to become the victors of this game and this series, but they just can't find it. Trying to remove the players towards the hard point. Cuban now investment to hold on, but only finds 1. Fire's weak for the second trade. Not going to get it. Chuso will find the triple. SSS can no longer finish things here. They have to go towards the next hill. Still the fight for the scrap time. Hexad, they want to get it, but in doing so, they've given mid-map control towards that next hill to SSS.
Colossal kill from Omari right here, and he should have that read on the players coming from Lambo right here. Operators come out. Grab Vortex shut down. Claw is gone. Hexad had to find a way to break through, but Cuban is there. Daytel the only player left, but he's got equalizers. He finds the break. The question is, can the reinforcements arrive? And there's nobody close. Triple S 250, 198. They close things out, and a 74 out of Chuso to close out the series.
Yeah, I was going to ask when we were in the P2 rotation, I was like, I don't know what the record is, but I think Chuso's on track. I am very certain that Chuso has probably broken it. Again, I don't know. I'd have to get somebody from ESL to confirm, but 74, it doesn't sound like we've had that in a competitive game of Call of Duty, at least like past open finals stage, right? That is insane. It's numbers that Chuso was putting up against Exclusive last week. Not quite 74, but still, a 50 bomb against Exclusive last week was indicative that Chuso might be one of the best players in Europe this season, and he showed up once again here. But what a game. From the start, I really felt like it was going to be a whimper to end the series. At the end of the game, it really did feel like a bang instead. SSS, 100-point deficit, and somehow, some way, again, the exact same thing that happened in map number 1 happened again, with Hexad closing the gap with a solid 60-point hold. This time around, it was P4 on this map. They couldn't quite fully close the lead, though. They were trading kills from that point onwards. And again, I think Hexad will be kicking themselves that they let the Hardpoint get away from them in the way that they did in the early game. You look towards the KDs, and I cannot believe it. That is like a 2.1, 2.2 KD or something like that from Chuso. That's absolute bloody insanity. With almost 90 seconds inside the hill as well. That is an insane performance.
That's a 2.5. That is a near 2.5 with a minute 30 in the hard point. That is a heck of a performance.
I think all eyes are going to be on Chuso now heading into our challenge finals, as Special Suicide Squad are the second team to claim a spot in that portion of the competition. And they fought well. Okay. They wanted to make sure they secured that spot. We knew this was going to be a tough matchup because we already got to see them on that upper side of the bracket. But you had mentioned leading into the match, Birdie, that you were even impressed with what they were able to do up against Exclusive. And I think that they continue to illustrate why they are in this competition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I said it coming into the season. I think, having had the chance to cast this team before under a different name, they are a team to watch for sure. They are new blood. For sure, this team just looks so solid. SSS, I think, just on the whole, just amazing players. Like, again, the fact that they were able to play Exclusive as close as they were look amazing. I think in the middle of that game, Bobby, you were talking about the fact that, again, it's kind of a mute comparison to a certain extent, because obviously Elevate are a wildly better team across the board, but SSS are playing in Hardpoint like Elevate at points. Like, they're constantly playing aggressive, constantly getting at each other's backs. I haven't seen team play like this in Europe from any team. Like, straight up. Like, Exclusive and Animus, they might well have the gunny. They don't have team play like this, and I think that's what's going to pull SSS way further into the tournament than most people expected. I think SSS, next time they play Exclusive, will look a lot better than they did in that upper bracket match.
Love that. Love to hear that for everybody at home. Here's one final look back at Group A, with Exclusive and Triple S being your two teams that have qualified through to our challenge finals that first week of April. And that means we're also done for Group A. These two teams can now rest and just watch the rest of the teams battle it out for their spots into the challenge finals, because now we know who we'll be seeing out of this group. That means we will next week be changing our focus over to the other four teams, our Group B here in EU. And do the same thing all over again. So if you guys were here last week, we'll do that upper bracket side of things. We won't eliminate anybody. And then the following week after that, we'll come back, run through the entire lower bracket as we get a chance to take a look at who these teams are. And like we just heard Brody mentioning, we've got Animus in this group, Bobby. I think a lot of people are excited for that.
Yeah, no question about it. Animus have been maybe the longest standing name in European Call of Duty Mobile at this point. Obviously, it's been a rotation of different players, but they've constantly fielded a very solid roster and represented the region well at every stage of competition. So they will absolutely be the favorites going into that stage. I believe we do have a team in here that dropped a nuke in the Open finals as well, if I was seeing everything correctly. So definitely some up-and-coming talent to keep your eyes out for, too.
Yeah, and that's what's always so fun about the SPS, is that we will have those mainstays, those experienced players within the competitive scene. But then every once in a while, a team or a player will crop up where we get to see some really cool standout performances and see if they can hang at that next level of the competition. Are they as good as the players that have seen a global stage multiple times? And that's why it's always a really good time. And hopefully we'll be able to see that out of Group B next week. But if you guys are unable to make it, or if you missed anything that happened here today, don't worry about it. You can just follow us on social media, X, Insta, and Facebook, for all updates related to the Snapdragon Pro Series. Or you can join our Discord if you want to hang out with more people at discord.gg/Snapdragon Pro Series. All of our community members are in there. You can talk all things Call of Duty Mobile, or you can, of course, continue getting all of these updates, because we have multiple regions running their challenge seasons right now. So, Brody, we've made it through Group A. Thoughts on EU here so far?
Actually kind of positively surprised by Europe this season. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and say that Europe at the end of the year are going to do World Championships just yet. I think we're a little bit early on pulling that trigger, but I will say again, you know, you come in with these established teams in Europe, the likes of Exclusive and Animus. Vanquish, I know, are a team that have been in seasons past. I expect big things out of them. We saw them do really well in Open finals, but it's good to have new blood as well. Like, Europe, I think, has been lacking that in recent seasons. There've been some new players, but never a new team that's like, this is the new team that's challenged that established top 2 to top 3. It looks like we've got a team on the board that can finally do that.
Love that. Love that. And Bobby, you know, new season, obviously new year of COD-M here in SPS. Are you feeling like you like the way that EU's trending right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been the big issue for a lot of European or a lot of Western regions for the time being, is just a lack of new talent making their way in. So the fact that we've got nearly an entirely new roster of talent, let alone a new player that's making waves the way that Triple S has, I think is a really good sign for the region, and hopefully means there's opportunity to improve, and hopefully that'll give more motivation for those teams at the top to improve as well.
And well, hopefully everybody at home enjoyed our 2 matches here today. A little bit shorter of a day, but we closed out an entire group. And like I said, we'll be turning our focus towards Group B next week. So a whole new set of teams that you all at home can enjoy seeing how they play out in the competition, which means there's only 2 spots left in our challenge finals. We are halfway through the season, and I don't know how we've gotten here already, but it's been really fun so far. As always, a huge thank you to Snapdragon Elite Gaming and DHL for helping us make this whole thing possible. And thank you to all of you at home for hanging out with us and watching. We'll see you next week.
The Snapdragon Pro Series is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming and DHL.
Looks like the players are ready. Here we go!
the man them thinking that we're flawless. Yeah, mama told you that I'm gorgeous. Got a million tricks, can't deport us.